love. Make sure we live. Alright, we live. Oh man! Double tap the screen, shut alive out. What we doing today, chat? What we doing today, chat? Double tap the screen, shut alive out, man. Y'all let me know, is my mic good? Is it low? Is it high, man? Double tap the screen, shut alive out, man. We got the new wave of politics is here, man. We got the new wave of politics is here, man. We got the Texas Dems still fighting their fight. We got Trump fighting for his tariffs, man. We got midterms, governors, and we got the missing 21 trillion. We got the Bush admin. Believe the lady was over there in HUD. She said we got all these underground facilities across the world, but she said it started in 98, finished in 2015. We finna break this down. Art of War, what it do, man? I know I took a day off. I know. I went like 35 days straight on the lives, and I took a day off, man. Y'all forgive me. I wasn't going to take a day off, but I needed that rest. Y'all see I'm back and I'm better. I'm back and I'm better. Double tap the screen, shut alive out, man. What we doing today, chat? Call your auntie, uncle, and your cousin. Tell them plug live and he running his mouth, man. Where that baby go to?
From the way that I flex, might just hit the strip just to go blow me a check. They know what the fuck I'm on. They say they ain't got some of the best gas. They call it Southern Joy. Chain on chain and ice on ice like Adam Sandler. I'm water boy. I know I'm all in the head. Bad bitch laying in my bed. Wait till I give her a spray. I'm a master with the head. Don't let these social fool you. These nigga broke. I know that they ain't bought it. Ain't got no car but talking shit. Okay, then little walkie talkie. I told that bitch to come home. I ain't got time for no bitch that's healing. Puff the blood, she called me daddy. And I'm screaming out no dick. I'ma make sure that she come. I'ma fuck her good with my tongue. I know the night is still young. So baby, let's get it in. I know just how she like it tonight. She spicy, she added a friend. They ain't identical, but they fuck alike. So in the bed, I call them twin. I call them twin. Then I call them twin. Bitch, shoot a shoot. 1 + 1 = 2. What you tryna do? Go back for back, check a swoop. Either way it go, I'm on. Either way it go, I'm gone. Brody them just got like 100 on 'em and they tryna get them gone. What you call it, that wet? What's the name? And he put it in his song. Brody them got the purest powder, it's pink, you know this shit is strong. No diddy. I'm the type of nigga that turn my bitch up in each city. Brody cut out, we sellin' brain, we hit the gritty. I feel like a baby, I'm tryna get that milk about them titties. It's no question who young and the latest. If you want your bitch, then when she talking, hear her. If I want the bitch, I'm going Pittsburgh. Still her. I keep some on the side, I don't have trust in just the main bitch. Suck me up while I'm driving like damn, I'll die by this lane switch. She a different type of free, so we ain't never got a tussle. Throw it back like Miss London, and some of your life be hustle.
Yeah, that baby go slide on it, chat. Double tap the screen, shut alive out, man. We here with the
to the greatest damn show on YouTube.
Yeah, we here with the afternoon show, man. Like I said, we rejuvenated. We back.
Welcome to the greatest damn show on YouTube.
Yeah, we might get ready to do some giveaways today, man. Do I got some Zybags in here, man? Do I got some Zybags? Hold on, chat. Do I got some Zybags in here to give away? Yeah, man. Let's see, chat. I think we finna get some shit away today on this stream, man. We got some Zybags to give away, chat. I think I got 1, 2. We're going to give away like 3 or 4 Zybags this stream, chat. We're going to give away like 3 or 4 Zybags, man. So call your auntie, uncle, and your cousin. Tell them plug live and he running his mouth, man. This is the new wave of politics, man. We got the governor races going on 2026. We got Newsom. He's termed, maxed out. He got to get the hell on. We got DeSantis. He's termed, maxed out, got to get the hell on. So we seeing it ramp up. We seeing the politicians making their rounds. I also want to go back to the Texas Dems. We're going to cover that. Trump fighting for his tariffs. You see the judge is trying to rule against those tariffs. CC, what it do? We see the judges trying to rule against those tariffs. But I'm really concerned. I really want to talk about the midterms, the governors, and then we got the Bush administration admin, the lady that was, not admin, but the lady that was over HUD talking about America spent $21 trillion building underground cities. So they say we got $40 trillion in debt now, 36, 37 trillion in debt. She's saying 21 of that shit came from these underground cities in America, man. I believe they got some kind of online sleuths done the work, seen all the paperwork and all the I don't know what they call it, unauthorized spending. Basically, the money that's missing that we don't know where the hell it went. They saying it's equaling 21 trillion. This woman saying that 21 trillion went between 1998 to 2015 to build the underground cities across America. We got truck drivers saying that they go under tunnels that go hundreds of miles, man. We finna get into it, chat. Y'all double tap the screen. Y'all shut a live out, man. Who in here rocking with me today, man? Let's get the 10 likes right quick. Let's get 10 more likes right quick. Double tap the screen. Shut a live out, man. This is what we gonna start right here, though. We gonna start right here. It says current governor Ron DeSantis will not be able to run again in 2026 due to term limits. Here's a breakdown of who's running for Florida governor and some of the races voters will decide in 2026. It says DeSantis was first elected in 2018, began his term in office January 8th, 2019. He was re-elected by a landslide in 2022. Florida, like 22 other states, limit governors to 2 consecutive 4-year terms. DeSantis will be ineligible to run again in the next Florida gubernatorial election in 2026 due to term limits. Florida governors cannot be elected to 3 consecutive term limits. DeSantis will leave office in January 2027, but he could run again for governor, I believe in 2031. Whenever the next midterm is, what's this? Yeah, 2025, I believe 2031, he'll be able to run again. It says 26 candidates have filed to run for Florida governor. As of July 2nd, 26 candidates have filed to run for Florida's governor in 2026, according to the Florida Department of Elections. By party, the candidates are, these are the Republican candidates: Shay Crowell, Byron Donalds, that's who y'all see on the screen with Benny Johnson. We finna watch Benny Johnson interview Byron Donalds. Jim Holcomb, Daniel J. Imperato, John Joseph Mercandante, Bill Reicherter. I'm sorry if I'm butchering these folks' names. I'm sorry. Kenneth Sucky, Robert Edward Bobby Williams Jr. And the Democrats, they got Richard Paul Dembinski, Anthony Pierre, Jean Baptiste, David Jolly, Donald J. Peterson. No party affiliation. You got Beatty, Damachi, Evans Sr., Gibson, Gillespie, Hyton, Clask, and you got David Wayne Gizmo Wexler. Independent, you got James Michael Brown and Andrea Lynn Klink. Libertarian Party of Florida, you got Scott Jewett. Constitution Party of Florida, you got Brandon L. McIntyre. And you have 2 write-in candidates, Christopher Tavarius Powell and Tavarius Christopher Powell, I'm guessing. I don't know how they got the names wrote. But Rodney Christopher Glover as well. Y'all double tap the screen, shut a live out. So that's what they saying the governor race is looking like in Florida. They say the deadline to register or change party affiliation is July 20th, 2026. Deadline to request a ballot be mailed is August 6th. So we still got mail-in ballots going on. We see the mail-in ballots will still be there. I know a lot of y'all are against mail-in ballots entirely, but we see the mail-in ballot still going on. You say tariffs are taxation without representation. Let me open up the call lines. Okay, the call lines are open. Let me drop the phone number. The call lines are now open. 843-1334. Okay, the call lines are now open. The phone number is pinned. It says election early voting mandatory period is August 8th through 15th, 2026. This is for Florida. Election day is August 18th, 2026. That's for the primary election. General election, deadline to register, August 5th, 2026. Deadline to request that the ballot be mailed, August 22nd, 2026. Early voting mandate period, the 24th through the 31st, and election day is November 3rd, 2026. All right, chat. All right, man. Before we get into this clip of Benny interviewing Byron, how many of y'all are familiar with Byron, man? Press one if y'all are familiar with Byron in the chat, man. Press one if y'all are familiar with Byron down there in the chat, man. Songs World. I got the phone lines open. Y'all can call in. Press one if y'all are familiar with Byron. Let's read this. It says U.S. Rep. Byron Donalds, a Republican congressman from Naples. Okay, Naples. Shout out OG Pal. I'm pretty sure OG Pal is real familiar with Byron. You know, at least if he's from Naples, I'm pretty sure OG Pal probably familiar with him. Hopefully OG Pal can call in today. It says Florida is one of 37 states that sets term limit for governor. So Governor Ron DeSantis will be ineligible to run again in the next Florida gubernatorial election in 2026 and will leave office January 2027. The 2026 election is more than a year away. So far, Donalds is the only person to announce plans to run for governor. Another name floating out there is another DeSantis. This time it's Casey DeSantis, the wife of current Governor Ron DeSantis. So chat, do you think Casey DeSantis has a chance to knock out Byron Donalds? Press 1 in the chat if you think Casey DeSantis has a chance to knock out Byron Donalds down there in Florida. Leland, appreciate that $5 super chat, Leland. Y'all give Leland some likes on that $5 super chat, and y'all give him some flames in the comment. Leland, appreciate you for your continued support, Leland. You know what they come with, man.
Welcome to the greatest damn show on YouTube.
Yeah, we got to drop that tag for Leland in that $5 super chat.
To the greatest damn show on YouTube.
Okay, appreciate that, Leland. But yeah, y'all let me know, how many of y'all think that DeSantis' wife can potentially knock out Byron Donalds? So they're saying that they're floating DeSantis' wife. Her name is Casey DeSantis, the wife of current Governor Ron DeSantis. At a prayer conference in Miami late February, Casey DeSantis quoted Yogi Berra saying, "When you come to a fork in the road, take it." You guys can read into what you want. Governor Ron DeSantis said moments later, adding, "I've had people coming up to me for years begging her to get into the fray." So she said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. And DeSantis said, hey, read into that what y'all want, man. We've been trying to get her into the fray for years, man. So y'all take that as what y'all will. It says the governor has spoken highly of his wife's potential candidacy over the last few weeks, but to date, she has not officially declared she will be running. Here's 10 things to know about Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds, 46, is a Florida House Republican from Naples. Donalds was born in Brooklyn, middle of 3 children, raised by a single mother. He's a graduate of Florida State University, Bachelor of Science degree in Finance Marketing, graduating in 2002. He worked for TIB, CMG Life Services, and Morin Wealth in Naples. Okay, he's well read. It's looking like this guy is well read. Shout out to you, Byron Donalds, for doing what you had to do. Donalds ran for the U.S. House of Representatives for Florida's 19th congressional district in 2012, finishing 5th in a field of 6 candidates. In 2016, he ran for the Florida House of Representatives and won, replacing and retiring incumbent Francis Rooney to represent Hendry County and East Collier County in Tallahassee. While serving in the Florida House, Donald said he primarily focused on elder affairs, criminal justice reform, and ensuring each child has access to world-class education. That sounds like some pretty good things to stand on, Mr. Donalds. Elder affairs, because a lot of us, we just write off the elders, especially coming now more than ever, like now more than ever. I'm not really reading the chat right now. I'm trying to get into the intro of the show right now. I'm sorry if I'm missing comments. But now more than ever, my generation and the generations that came after me are writing off the elders. Now, elders are living longer. Elders are living longer, but they're writing them off. Like, they don't go visit grandma and grandpa no more. They don't go by their parents' house all the time. You know, they too busy trying to, you know, make do. The days are gone to where you have 3 and 4 generations in a house or on the same land. Nowadays, as soon as they get 18, they moving. And not only are they trying to move, they're trying to move the hell across the country. So we see a lot of that. Now, do people move home to take care of parents? Of course, sometimes, but by far and large, we see these older people being abandoned, just being abandoned. Maybe family comes by here and there, you know what I'm saying? But that everyday nurturing, that everyday caring, that everyday phone call, like, that's not going on anymore. It's just not. It's just not. But he's saying that he's for elder affairs, so I can see that that's a big problem. I haven't really heard many people talking about the elder affairs. You know what I'm saying? What all goes into elder affairs, I'm just not exactly sure, but I would assume it would come with caring for elder people. And now more than ever, these old folks out here on their own. Straight up, these old folks out here on their own. He also says criminal justice reform. We talk about that a little bit on the show. Criminal justice reform, that can go either way, you know, however you feel about the justice system right now. I feel like by far and large, we do need, you know, better options, different options. And ensuring each child has access to a world-class education. That's what we need. That's what we need, Byron. Just out of this little clip right here, man, it sounds like those 3 things could be some good things for you to run on down there in Florida. It could be some good things for you to run on down there in Florida. It says, while serving in the Florida House, Donalds said he primarily focused on elder affairs, criminal justice reform, and ensuring each child has access to a world-class education. In 2020, Donalds was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives and was re-elected in 2022. His very first vote as U.S. Congressman was to void the U.S. 2020 presidential election results. That was his very first vote, was to void Joe Biden's win. Damn. Okay. Damn. All right. He said, we have a great governor. Ron DeSantis has done a tremendous job for our state, Donald said on Fox News Hannity February 25th. But now the job is to keep the best state in the country as the best state in the country. And that's going to be the mission at hand. I'm excited to announce my candidacy with you tonight. Now is the time to take the mantle and lead our state into the future. Trump told Byron Donalds to run, Byron, run. This is what Trump said back in February. I'm hearing the highly respected Congressman Byron Donalds is considering running for Florida, governor of Florida, the state that I love and won big in 2016, 2020, and 2024. I know Byron well, have seen him tested at the highest and most difficult levels. He is a total winner. Byron has a great wife, Erica, and 3 beautiful sons. They are very proud of him. As governor, Byron would have a big voice that will work closely with me to advance our America First agenda. He will fight tirelessly to secure our borders, stop migrant crime, strengthen our military, protect our vets, restore our economic power, advance American energy dominance, and defend our always under siege Second Amendment. Byron Donalds will truly be great and powerful governor for Florida should he decide to run, and will have my complete and total endorsement. Run, Byron, run. That's a hell of an endorsement, Chad. That is a hell of an endorsement from Trump. Okay. It says, Byron Donalds, GOP rising star and black MAGA patriot. Donalds' rough background and hardcore conservatism made him a GOP rising star. Donalds has described himself as a black MAGA patriot and has long been President Trump's strongest supporter in Congress. If elected governor, he would be Florida's first black governor. Donalds has supported and promoted Trump, frequently appearing with him at public events, including the Daytona 500 in February. Critic: Byron Donalds is a dangerous political opportunist with little political experience. Same shit they say about Crockett on the other side, bro. Like, I say this shit time and time again. Like, It's two sides to the same damn coin. The same thing they're saying about the glaring differences. I would sit here and say Byron Donalds is very, very different than Jasmine Crockett, but they're saying the same thing about him. Critics are saying the same thing about him on either side. A dangerous political opportunist. Same damn thing they're saying about Jasmine Crockett. It's crazy. It's crazy. That shit is crazy, bro. That shit is crazy. I'm not even supposed to be cussing. It's the daytime show. That stuff is crazy, Chad. That is crazy. That's why I called the right the new woke the other day. It's the two sides, man. Yes, they have completely different ideologies, but they use the same tactics, same rhetoric, and different poking points, man. It's just crazy, bro. It says, in a statement released after Donald's announcement, Florida Democratic Party Nikki Fried called him a dangerous political opportunist who should be nowhere near the governor's mansion. One of the least popular in Tallahassee politics, Byron is known best for skipping votes, defending insurrectionists, and promoting a revisionist version of black history that defends Jim Crow. He has little political experience, no executive experience, and is completely unqualified to run the state of Florida. So they saying that Byron defend Jim Crow. Byron be down there defending Jim Crow, or they putting words in his mouth. Y'all can't hear me. What the hell y'all mean y'all can't hear me? Is Byron an actual does he actually defend Jim Crow? Or is they saying he's promoting a revisionist version of black history they saying what he's promoting, his version of black history promotes Jim Crow is what she's saying. Okay. Y'all double tap the screen, shut the live out. Okay. I see what she's saying. She's not saying that he came out and defended Jim Crow. She's saying that the version of black history that he's promoting defends Jim Crow. It says Byron Donalds' first vote as congressman was to void U.S. election results. For his first ever vote as a U.S. congressman, Donalds joined 146 other Republicans who voted January 6, 2021 to void the U.S. election results based on objections to rule changes in two states Donalds said violated the Constitution. Donalds has repeatedly claimed Joe Biden was not the legitimate president of the United States. They say he's worth anywhere between 630,000 and 2.6 million. They saying damn, they got his whole arrest record out here and everything. What Donalds he said when he was 18 after a party at his apartment, he was arrested for, possession of marijuana. 1997 marijuana charge was dismissed as part of a pre-child diversion program. 2 years later, a female acquaintance convinced him he could make $1,000 by depositing a bad check. I was desperate out of money. I didn't have a job. My rent was overdue. Donald since made restitution to the bank for about 7 times the original amount, but the state pressed bribery charges in 2000. The charges were later expunged. Donald has been open about his arrest and said they're a tale of sin and atonement that make him uniquely qualified to serve others. I know that's right, Byron. Tell them folks, man, you had a little bud after the party, man. You was down on your luck and you tried something. You bumped your head a couple times and you got it together. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes people bump their heads a little bit and get it together. Why y'all saying y'all can't hear me? What's up, Oculus? Why y'all saying y'all can't hear me? Some of y'all saying the mic is fine. Now here go Oculus saying we can't hear you. Ock, that's your shit. That's your shit, Ock. I'm not going to block Oculus. I know who that is, but I'm not going to block him. But nah, that's your shit, Ock. Okay, Byron Donalds, we got a little background on it. So basically they saying that DeSantis can't run again. He has to sit out a term. DeSantis has to sit out at least one term. Let's get into the clip, man. Let's see what Benny Johnson interviewed Byron about.
Anybody who's a parent or a grandparent out there? Any young people who want to be parents?
Oh, we got one guy in the back. One.
Hey, I feel you.
One.
Listen, I'm telling you, like that's the most important thing in life, right? Like a culture of life and a state that protects it. So how are we going to protect our children in this fine state? How are we going to encourage more great patriots and families in the state of Florida?
Well, it's a great question. I think the first piece is we take law and order seriously. You want to have great patriots who are young people who grow up to take the reins of leadership in our state, whether that's our government, whether that's our economy. It starts with law enforcement. It starts with safe communities. Second piece is education.
It did get quiet when they asked who wants to have kids. That's what I'm saying. They got real quiet, Gito. They asked who plan on having kids. They said one person in there talked about it. One person.
And that's actually how I got into politics. Erica and I got in. It was really about education. I remember our oldest son, who's now 21, college graduate, killing it, doing his thing in finance, starting out his career. He came home one day and he was doing math homework. Now, I'm a finance major. My wife is an accounting major. We know math. You know, it's the thing. We're watching him do his homework. And
Y'all said he want to stop second chance programs? Y'all, are y'all sure? Does this Byron Donalds want to stop second chance programs? Press 1 in the chat if he does. Press 2 if that's false information.
in the kitchen, I'm milling around, and he's kind of frustrated. And I look over his shoulder, and I'm like, "What is this?" And he says, "Well, I'm doing I think he was doing long division. He's doing long division." And I said, "That's not how you do long division. I don't know what this is." And he goes, "This is how they're teaching us to do it." And I said, "Okay, well, I don't care what they're teaching you. This is wrong." And he was like, he's getting mad, and understandable. He's trying to do what his teachers are telling him to do. He's getting mad. I'm now upset. And I said to him, I go, "Son, I hire people. If you..."
Yeah, that new way that they're doing math, I'm not with it. And when him sitting down saying, I seen this part of the clip where he said, "I hire people. If you came in my company trying to do math like that, you would be fired." Yes, that's crazy. When he says he's for world-class education, like, we need to get this. Math is math, you know what I'm saying? All of this switching it up, doing that, man, all of that shit is crazy. But he said he got a son that's 21, graduated college. Congratulations to your son. Johnny 5 says, "I love Byron Donalds. He should run for president in 2028. Byron's not finna step on JD Vance's toes." That's what Byron's not gonna do. He ain't finna step on JD Vance's toes, man. We gotta see who's gonna be put in the running, but I don't see Byron stepping on JD Vance's toes. I think he's gonna try to lock down this Florida governor and shit, wait his turn.
Act like this in my company, you're fired. But we're not doing this. And so that's what started the political journey. So the second piece is education. Our children have to be, not just know our history and know the facts of just basic economics, but they have to be proficient in reading, in math, so that they have an ability to use, their God-given intelligence.
JCD, CBJ, how you gonna come in here and say this a MAGA stream and somebody done gifted you a damn membership in here? If you got gifted a membership, that means you done been in here a few times before. So, you know that I'm the voice of the politically homeless. If you are MAGA, bring your ass into this chat. If you are totally against MAGA, bring your ass in this chat. I don't care if you far left, far right, liberal, conservative, black, white, an alien, a fish, a damn submarine. I don't give a fuck. If come in here and talk, man. Call in. Matter of fact, call the number. Thank you, Sunset. Thank you, Sunset.
With the right things that they were learning in school, so they're prepared for the leadership of the future. The last thing is culture and political philosophy. I think as a party, it was said earlier on the stage, I forget which.
You said something I said confused me. I'm a centrist. You know what I'm saying? I'm a centrist, so that's what they would call me here, is a centrist. I say that, look, the left got some shit they need to get back to the basics on. They need to fix that shit at the damn basics. And the right, we already see what's going on with the right now. The right is, they're doing what they do right now. But at the same time, I'm going to be the one to say that they using the same tactics, the mob mentality. The left comes out for the LGBTQ rights mob mentality. The right now is coming out saying that they're being culturally persecuted. You know what I'm saying? They're coming out mob mentality like, hey, I can't be this way. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. It's the same thing, just different ideologies. That's what I'm telling y'all. Just like they're calling him political opportunist, then you got Jasmine Crockett on the other side. They're calling her a political opportunist. It's the same shit, just different takes. It's both sides pointing at each other. I just call it out. You know what I'm saying?
Panel that as a party, we have figured out what our philosophy is. And we believe that our philosophy, a conservative philosophy, is the very best thing when you're organizing a community, a city, a state, or a country. And for the future of our state, the future of Florida, it's about making sure that that philosophy is being taught to our kids so that when they mature and they become adults and they can use the Socratic method, they can use their God-given talents, they will see very clearly what you and I already see, that conservatism is the pathway for a great state like Florida. It's the pathway for sound communities, and that's how you lead into the future.
Did anybody just notice that? What he did? He's been spending so much time with Trump. He just pulled a "you're fired." Did you hear that? Did you hear him do it? Can you do it? I'm sure you got a good Trump impression.
No, actually,
I don't always agree with Benny Johnson, and I am critical of him at times, but one thing that you can't deny is Benny Johnson is working, bro. Like, Benny Johnson is in front of that camera, bringing content, bringing the conversation forward. Even if it is biased, he's bringing it forward every day. Like, I don't know who his team is or whatever, bro, but Benny Johnson is in his bag with the content. And as a creator, shit, I give flowers where flowers due. He getting this interview with Byron Scott. We just seen, what's the other guy, Brian Tyler with Gavin Newsom. Like, these creators, whether they on the left or the right, like, they bringing the interviews. They bringing the voice. I would much rather see this guy Byron Daniels sit down with a Benny Johnson than see him go on, you know, a Fox or a CNN or something like that. Like, I would much rather see the Brian Tyler guy sit down with Gavin Newsom on the podcast than watching Gavin, because it just seems more relaxed. It seems like it kind of, you know, of course they got a whole crowd right there, but it seems like they kind of having a conversation.
I have a terrible Trump impression. I can't do it.
Really?
No, I can't do it. I can't do it, and I never tried because that's him and that's not me.
Yeah.
Speaker Johnson does a great Trump impression. I'll give it to Speaker Johnson.
I won't
This
ask
is
you your
top
Speaker
notch.
Johnson impression. I'm not going to get you in trouble.
I will not do that.
You're homies with Donald Trump. You and Trump
I've
go
never
back.
heard
What's up, Virgil?
We're homies.
You're homies with Trump.
That's a new one, but okay.
I'm allowed to culturally appropriate. I live in Tampa. I don't know. So you're homies with Trump. I live in a Cuban neighborhood. I can say homie. What up, my Cubans? I'm not Cuban, but yes.
The Cubans are right there.
I got Cuban bread. Who's got the Cuban bread in Tampa? So there's like one guy that knows the Cuban bread. He's right here. Yes, that's exactly right. He's like, yes, my Cuban, my man. Robert makes the Cuban bread. That's exactly. Everyone knows Robert, the Cuban bread. Okay, sorry, we're getting wildly off track here.
That's
You're
all right.
Hey, whoever just called in, I just seen you call in. I can't call you back, so you'll have to call back. I just seen whoever that was that called in. Y'all can call back. Gito, if that was you calling in, let me know, Gito.
So close with Trump. You were a surrogate on the campaign. You spoke in Milwaukee. Everyone was proud watching him speak at the RNC convention, right? President Trump, the most seen miracle in human history, him surviving that assassin's bullet, and you spoke that same night with him, and he had the ear bandage and everything. Is powerful. What's your relationship like with him? How do you make Florida great again? Or how do you take MAGA to Florida level? How do you continue those Trump policies here, state level? He's endorsed you. Obviously, we all have seen that. You're the Trump-endorsed candidate for governor. Here we go.
So, look, first thing I will say, Florida is the best state in the country. We are the best state in the
Call from.
Guys, how are you?
Yeah, don't even worry about it. That's why I asked Gito, was it him calling in?
And look, I say it often on the campaign trail, a lot of the credit for where we are as a state does go to Governor DeSantis. He's done a tremendous job leading the state. He really has. I guess I would say the thing that we share are we've both been endorsed by President Trump to be governor of Florida. So that's
I will say, I'm not going to say Florida's the best state. I've never been to Florida myself personally, Chad. I've never been to Florida. But when it comes to like crypto, moving forward with the crypto, I feel like Florida's making an effort to be a leading state. Like Florida, more than a lot of other states, when you see shit like Florida, the Texas, Florida, I would say really just those two states right now, maybe a California, but those are the states that are trying to actively get ahead of the game. They're trying to be, and Illinois, I think one of the states already banned AI. They banned it to where you can't have an AI counselor and shit like that. Those are the states that are getting ahead of the curve. Those are the states that I would say are actively trying to be the best states. Some states cool with just being a damn state, but then you have states that are actively trying to be the best, like Florida, Texas, probably California, Illinois. Those are states that you see trying to set trends.
That's actually really cool. But I will tell you that when it comes to the president, he's just no nonsense. With him, it's what's the vision, what's the goal? Okay, go do that. And so when we were on the campaign trail together, what you would see very quickly is he is going to do everything necessary to win. It doesn't matter what the obstacles are. It doesn't matter how long you're on the plane. It doesn't matter how many motorcades you're in, how many speeches you give, how many people you see, how many photos you take. All of that is irrelevant. Every piece of energy, every second of time is devoted to success, devoted to victory. And so when you're on the campaign trail with him, there's no excuse. You can't be like, I'm tired, I'm not feeling good today, because he's at it every single day. And so, a bunch of us who did a lot of heavy lifting, we're like, we don't have an excuse. Like, he's 78 and he's rolling. Like, we have no excuses. So that's thing number one. Thing number two, I would say, when it comes to the president, is he just wants you to be yourself. Now, I think he realizes when, I think people in politics...
Yeah, I'm cutting the call lines off. But yeah, when he says that the president just wants you to be yourself, that's something that I've been saying over the last few weeks too. It's like nobody can be a Trump 2.0, just like nobody could be an Obama 2.0. The Dems tried it with Hillary, they tried it with Biden, they tried it with Kamala, you know what I'm saying, they have Obama still, you know what I'm saying, like, this is Obama's office still, you know what I'm saying. It can't be like that because Trump is too much of a polarizing figure. If somebody comes in there and even starts using the same kind of rhetoric or just the same flair like Trump, motherfuckers is gonna be like, whoa, bring that ass here, boy. Like, you can't be doing all that. Now, you not Trump. Y'all gotta realize they're calling Trump daddy. They not finna let nobody come in here and act like daddy after this. They're not. Nobody's trying to hear that shit. So Byron Donalds is saying that Trump wants people to be themselves. That's what they need to be trying to do. Be your damn self.
Trying to be him as opposed to them just being themselves. I think that's one of the reasons why he and JD get along so well. Because if you watch JD is JD. Like, JD's not trying to be Donald Trump, he's himself. I think the president fully respects that. Third thing is, you got to have no fear at all. I remember it didn't matter what the room was, whether it was doing the Breakfast Club in New York City, whether it was going on CNN, going on MSNBC.
Hey, double tap the screen and shut a live out. We 25 subs away from the next sub goal. I know y'all are watching on y'all phone, right? So it's a little box at the top that says subscribe. It's not hard to just tap that subscribe box and double tap the screen. See, I've been watching lives. I went and watched the live. Now I see what y'all see. So I know it's a little white subscribe box up there. Just tap it and double tap the screen. You can't play with me no more. Y'all been playing. Now I know.
Thing he wants to see really out of our entire movement is we cannot have any fear. We have to fight, fight, fight. And if he knows that you have no fear, you and him will get along. It'll be pretty seamless. And look, at the end of the day, you gotta be fun. You gotta have a good sense of humor. He does like people who look like Central Casting. That's his deal. He loves that. But that's him.
Appreciate that.
At the end of the day, it's about the mission. And from Butler, I will tell you that night, Monday night of the convention, I didn't expect him to come out that night, and I don't think anybody did. I was up, I was in the green room, I had given my speech at the convention, and that was an amazing experience. I will say it was one of the great honors of my life, because when my wife and I started in politics 15, 16 years ago, never did we think I would be speaking at the convention. That was never something that ever occurred to me because I was an activist. I'm a Tea Party guy. So I was a door knocker, a phone caller. I was a guy helping people win races. I'm a guy that was involved in some of the activist things that you do.
Yeah, I thought about doing that chat, like getting what, you know what I'm saying, but it's like I'm a centrist, you know what I'm saying, so it's like I can't go be a door knocker for them. I can't go be a door knocker for them. It's like, damn, where do I, you know what I'm saying, it's like, shit, I'm just going to be here with y'all bringing the information, man, bringing the conversations. I do got some interviews lined up. I got some interviews lined up with some local people. You know, we got the elections coming up locally as well. So y'all let me know, do y'all want to see those interviews on this channel or do y'all want to see them on the backup channel? Like, because I got a lot of interviews lined up. Like, a lot of people have been emailing and getting with me trying to, you know, they got their local elections coming up. They want to sit down and talk. Do y'all want that on this channel or the backup channel?
Do on a local level, we're fighting for better choices in education, which at the time it was getting rid of Common Core. That was the fight at the time, and you're involved in that on the ground. So never did I think it was going to transform into 7 minutes on stage at the RNC. That was really wild. The thing I really didn't see coming was when they told me earlier in the day, you're going to sit in the president's box. And so, listen, you know, I'm a regular person. So when you hear you're going to be in somebody's box, you're thinking, oh, cool, I'm going to be in the sky box. Tell me what room it is. That's a real honor. I'm going to go up to a sky box and sit there. And they were like, no, you're going to be sitting in his box. And I'm thinking like, oh, okay, well, whatever. We'll figure that out. So when I'm done speaking, I'm in the tunnel. And out comes one of the advanced guys that was on the campaign. I know him very well. And he goes, man, that was a great speech. We were just watching it. The boss is inside. Just go in and say hi to him. Okay. So I go inside and Susie Wiles, who everybody will see later tonight, and a couple of the key campaign people were in the room, and the president's on the phone. And he's kind of on the phone like this. He's like this. And of course, you know, this is the year. So he's like this, and he's on the phone, and he's talking, and he sees me, and he's like, wait 1 second. And he gets off the phone. And he's like, Byron, that was a great speech. And he turns to me and I see the bandage. And the second thing is, what do you think of the bandage? This is him. This is who he is, man.
What did you say?
I said, I don't like it. Take it off.
That's
what I said. I said, I don't like it. Take it off.
No.
I said, let everybody see the year. He was like, you know, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. But the docs, they want me to keep the bandage on. Doc Ronnie Jackson, my colleague from Texas, Doc Ronnie. He's like, Doc Ronnie says I got to wear the bandage. I'm like, so what? You're the president. Just take the thing off. And he goes, no, I think I'm going to keep it on. And it was good. He was like, that was a good speech. And I said, thank you. And he goes, I'll see you later. I'm like, okay. So they escort me out, and I'm going through the tunnels, and I'm thinking I'm going to go up to the elevator to go to the box. And they're like, no, sir, you're going to walk down this way. So I'm walking down the rampway in the tunnels, and the carpet turns red. And I'm like, well, why is the carpet red? And then I walk out, and it's like the sea of cameras, and you realize you're on the arena floor. And then on the arena floor, they're like, all right, come on, sir, we're going to walk up these steps right here. And I'm like, but this box is in the top of the arena. That's where we got to go. And then they go, no, sir, this is where you're sitting. And I walk out, and you see the chairs, and I'm like, oh, shoot, this is a great seat. I was like, so maybe I'm like 3 levels up, you know, I'm sitting up there with, you know, with one of the guys up there, and they go, all right, here's your seat. And I'm sitting in the front row, and I'm like, oh, this is a great seat. And I look on the floor, and on the floor on the masking tape, it said DJT. And they're like, yeah, this is your seat. And I'm like, oh man, so many people are going to be mad. They're going to be mad, but this is great. This is great.
Man,
so while everybody's still doing their speeches and stuff, David Sachs, who's the president's czar on digital assets and crypto, he was sitting in row 3, and he comes down and he's sitting next to me. And
y'all think he an Uncle Ruckus, man? Y'all really think Byron Donalds an Uncle Ruckus, man? Press 1. I got to do more research on Byron Donalds. This is really my first time Benny did the interview with him, so we're gonna watch it. And I read the article about him. I haven't really done a deep dive on Byron. I seen him on, some of the mainstream media's talking. I know he's pro-Trump. But y'all really think he Uncle Ruckus? Press 1 if y'all think Byron Donalds Uncle Ruckus, man. Press 2 if you don't.
We're talking, and then he started to check his messages, and I'm checking mine because you've been running all day during the convention. About 5 minutes, I'm like kind of looking over at David like, you got to get up. That's DJT. I love you, David, but you can't sit here. That's his seat. Man, it was great. That when he came out that night, I got to tell you, for me, it was epic to see.
Oh, y'all said Donald Trump used him to get a black person in view? That's crazy. That's crazy. You say more like a sellout, not Uncle Ruckus. That's crazy. Y'all said Donald Trump had him there to get a black person in view. Is crazy.
Response from everybody.
It's like no matter what. Now, it's getting to the point to where it's like no matter what these people do, like somebody gonna have something to say. Like, damn, y'all really trying to say he only there to have a black person in view is crazy, man. Damn, bro. Maybe this man worked, man. He was, y'all could have at least said that it was like maybe if y'all would have said he was nut hugging Trump. Like maybe y'all could have been like, oh, he just D-rolled Trump to get that seat. I would be like, okay, but y'all saying Trump using him to get a black person in view. It's like no matter what happens, bro, somebody's going to have something to say. But maybe that's true. Maybe it is. I'm just saying that there's no way to win. There's no way to win.
In the arena, if you were in Milwaukee, you know what I'm talking about. That night was like nothing. It was like nothing you can really put together. I think because the country got a chance to see the fighter Donald Trump. But I think I'll say to this day, I think the country got a chance to see Donald. And in that moment, I think he connected with the American people. They connected with him, and then that campaign went off to a whole nother level.
Nah, you're right. Optics is everything. Optic is everything. You know what I'm saying? Optics is everything. But maybe I'm gonna let y'all have it, man. Y'all feel how y'all feel about it. I feel like it was a combination of things. Did him being black have something to play in it? Yes. But just because he's black, did he get it? No. Is it because they saying he's a true conservative, with those Florida roots? That has some play in it. Is it because he's rolled Trump nuts to the top? Probably too. It got a lot to do with all three of those things, I think. But saying this just because he's black, I don't know, because it's a lot of black people out there that could have, got that invite. He was black and he was, extra super duper pro-Trump. And he waited his turn. He went up the ranks. He won. I mean, he lost, 2016, won 20... He lost and then won twice. I don't know the years here. I got it right here. Hold on, let's see. Let's see when Byron Donalds lost. 2016, he ran for Florida, the House of Representatives, and won. So he lost. He lost in 2012, won in 2016, and then was re-elected in 2022. Okay. But yeah, I think it's a combination of things, Jay.
That's right. That was the moment. Everybody remembers the moment.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers the moment. Where were you when you heard Trump was shot? You'll remember that for the rest of your life, right? Yeah. It's spiritual. We're fighting a spiritual battle. Unpack that for me really quickly. Everyone got to see actually Donald. What does that mean?
Well,
everyone got to see
what did do, Marvin?
Donald. You just said.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
I think in that moment he.
Hey, y'all double tap the screen. I know y'all on y'all phone. It's a little subscribe box right there at the top. Subscribe and double tap the screen. Let's get about 20 more likes in here. We do got memberships available to get you access to 250 past live streams, and you get some cool ass emojis. Members, drop them emojis.
Like anybody would, I guess, but I think he kind of understood the magnitude what this campaign was about. And I mean, look, he's been persecuted more than any modern politician, probably since Nixon. If we're gonna be honest, like he's been persecuted.
Y'all think that the way he described that meeting with Trump with the Band-Aid, y'all think that's making y'all question the assassination attempt? Because he said, do you like it?
Probably more than Nixon. Whether it's the indictments, the impeachments, the investigations, now we're realizing just how disgusting the Democrats are and how they manipulated the intelligence community just because they couldn't take losing. I'll leave that for a moment. But through all of that, you know, he's had this resolve of, oh, you're coming at me? Well, I'm going to come back at you twice as hard. And that's really his resolve. I think Butler, literally, when he just turned his head just like a little bit more to see the chart, you come face to face with your mortality. And I think even in that instance, it wasn't just Donald J. Trump and I approve this message. It was, I'm Donald. I have kids. I have grandkids. I love this country. You know, he loves New York. He loves America. He wants to see the best. And I think that the aftermath of Butler, I think, gave the American people an opportunity to see him. And I think it gave him, I think, an ability to kind of just to pull a layer back and see the core man. Like when Kai went to speak, that was tremendous. You see him. I was at Daytona Motor Speedway when the other day, a couple months ago, when he brought his granddaughter out on the track, and she's in her ruby red shoes, and you can see, like, man, he's a grandfather. He loves his family. He wants what's best for the country. And I think that after Butler, where most people in politics would have probably tried to shy away or really hidden themselves from the public, he actually expanded that. And it wasn't rhetoric. It was just him. And I think that's how that connection with the American people really became stronger throughout the end of the campaign.
Yes. Who is thankful? Let's do a poll here really quickly. Who is thankful that 10 miles down the road here, we could all go buy a ticket, and I did this actually yesterday, and go see in a experience called the Hall of Presidents, a beautifully robotic Donald Trump stand up and deliver the oath of office instead of a robotic Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton at Disney World. I am very thankful for that.
Me too.
And my kids think that's actually Donald Trump in the ride, and they think that's where Trump lives in Disney World. I have the video to prove it.
Don't tempt him. He might take over the Hall of Presidents. Don't tempt him.
There's something amazing. If you actually go, there's something amazing. Disney actually did the 2 thumbs up. Watch carefully. They had the Trump go like this. And the Robo Trump actually does 2 thumbs up. It's amazing. What a state, man. And Disney, I don't think would ever do that unless they sort of got put in their place. And Florida's been doing a lot of that. Florida's been doing a lot of that. How are you going to continue that fight to de-wokeify the state? Because it was a little touch and go there, right? Disney fought back. Disney said, no way, the state of Florida's we're going to do what we're going to do. And boy, they were put down.
Well, the governor laid the mantle down very clear. You can run your business all you want, but if you interfere with the political decisions of Florida and the legislative decisions of Florida, then we're going to have to come and take a hard, long look at you. And that's not going to change, by the way. We have no problem with companies choosing our state, being a part of the fabric of our state, running their enterprises. We want to grow that in our state. We want more jobs coming here. We want an even more vibrant economy than where we stand today. But there is going to be a clear dividing line, and that is the legislative and political matters of our state are going to reside with the governor and with the state legislature, and they're not going to be up for discussion with corporate America. It's just the way it is.
Good. Strong leader. So you said Florida is the most free state in the union, and there was a challenge against that recently. If you want to piss off a group of people, say that to a Texan. Texas has decided to go redistrict.
Yeah.
Did anybody see this? So Texas added 5 new congressional seats for Republicans. And they said, yippee-ki-yay, you can try and stop us. And my question to you is, there is a debate as to whether Florida should attempt to do the same. You
Yes.
currently are a member of Congress. What's your
Yes.
take on that?
So you're not going to like this answer, but as a member of Congress, I do not engage in redistricting conversations.
Yeah.
And the reason why, to be blunt, is I don't want to be in a redistricting lawsuit.
Yeah.
Don't want to do it.
Got it.
So what I would say to the governor and to my colleagues in the legislature, I believe that you should always be looking at the makeup of congressional districts, or they're representative of the people of Florida. I will leave it at that.
All right.
He dodged that question like Floyd Mayweather, didn't he? He rolled. He hit him with the shoulder roll, didn't he, Chad? He just hit Benny Johnson with the shoulder roll on that redistricting question. That was a good question, Benny, but he dodged that one.
Here's the trump card.
Virgil, you said I'm in Texas. How do I feel about redistricting? I don't feel no type of way about it. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I feel for it on a national level, but like just as far as Texas, like Virgil, I live in Texas, but I'm from Arkansas. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm from Arkansas. I've only been in Texas like not that long. You know. Thank you, Big Niece, for the cowboy plug. Thank you, girl, Big Niece, for the continued support. Everybody give Big Niece some likes on that $5 super chat. Who just called me? I'm finna call him back. But yeah, as far as in Texas, I don't really feel that type of way, Virgil, because I'm from Arkansas.
What?
What's going on, caller? What's your name? Where you calling from? Bro, dude was damn near, he was grown too, bro. Like, he just called us, like what? He was grown, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy. He just called in and screamed like that. Yeah, Dorsey, you can call in, Dorsey. He just called in and screamed like that, bro. I lost 30 viewers when he did that shit. It's crazy. It's crazy. That is crazy, Chad. Don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. It's all okay. Y'all double tap the screen, shut a live out, man. That shit is crazy, bro. They just called in and did all of that crazy ass. You know what I mean? Double tap the screen, shut a live out. Oh, that's Dorsey that you calling. No, this ain't Dorsey. This is Sam. What's going on, caller? What's your name? Where you calling from?
Virgil, bro, what's good with you?
What's up now, Virgil?
What's up, man?
Man, how you
I had
feeling?
asked you about the redistricting. I know you said you from Arkansas, but I'm saying when you cast your vote, you live here.
Correct. So, yeah, I mean, I will be voting in the next year's midterm election. So, I mean, I guess it would be where I'm at would be red anyway, though. Like where I'm at's not going. You know what I'm saying? Like it was. I'm in Austin. You know, this was always red.
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think Austin's always been red, but
Well, I'm talking about
I would
since
say
I've been
red.
here. Since I've been here.
I got you. I mean, I'll tell you this. I mean, it sounds like the motherfuckers gonna stay red the way they moving. You know, I think it's a clear power grab.
I do too, but
Do you?
I also look at Illinois and I look at California. So it's kind of like, damn, you know, like the left kind of did this with 5 states, you know what I'm saying, a few years ago. They kind of already went with their move.
Yeah. I think the problem though is like when we talk about the issues,
But
I talk about them on like a
what I
both
do
sides
want to
kind of
ask
thing.
you is, when we say the left, when the right says the left already went with their move, the left is kind of coming back and was like, yeah, but we didn't do it. We did our redistricting on time. So what do you got to say to that? Do you feel like the left did theirs like on schedule? Do you feel like it's only a problem because it's like a middle of the? They just did it in 2021. Is that your problem? Is that
I kind of feel like if you play the game the way the game is supposed to be played in American politics, then you shouldn't have anything to worry about in the midterms. If your policies are so great, if you're doing so right by the American people, it just kind of seems very off-cycle redistricting of maps and, congressional seats and whatnot.
But
in
you
the
see,
middle of the system.
but
we haven't even got there yet.
You see, Newsom said that he's gonna take 9 more seats if Texas goes for this 5.
That's
Newsom,
the response, though.
correct. New York also is trying to pass a bill to be able to respond. So what I'm gonna say is, when I say it, I really have to kind of. I gotta go to the Supreme Court. I gotta go to the Supreme Court's decision in 2019 to stop hearing those cases.
Yeah.
So
I just think that someone's got to be held responsible.
Because the Supreme Court, because there's
it starts right now.
once the Supreme Court in 2019 ruled that they're not touching those kind of cases anymore, it kind of became, the Wild West. So if anybody's to blame, I would say it's the Supreme Court.
Yeah, but Trump put 3 people on the Supreme Court.
Correct.
A majority MAGA court. So, at the same time, you can go right back to conservatives and put that blame right back on them.
Okay. No, most definitely.
Listen to you.
So yeah, I feel like it will be a power grab. It is unprecedented times. I'm not saying gerrymandering is anything new, but just having a president kind of call for it and seeing it play out. Seeing states respond, seeing Gavin Newsom on his way out, and then they're saying that the guy that they expect to replace him.
Real quick.
The guy that they expect. All right, let me finish this. The guy they expect to replace him is saying if Newsom tries to respond with that 9 seats, that he's gonna stop it. So we see a lot of it going on.
I'll be honest with you. I don't want none of it to happen. I don't care if it's a blue state, if it's a red state. I don't care if it's a Republican, Democrat, centrist, whatever. I don't really want none of it to happen. I think that when you go to vote, that's the American people speaking, right? They spoke this past election, and so you need to let it be the same way it is going forward. But I would ask you this, though. In the short 6-7 months that this man's been in office, right? 7-8 months, whatever it is, right? It just seems time and time again before the election, things have seemed a lot more fascistic in terms of power grabs, in terms of just policy, in terms of how you're going about leadership. Does this not walk in that same direction? Does this not seem like it's a part of that same fascistic theme? And if it does, hold someone like Hochul or Newsom accountable for saying, fuck this. I'm not dealing with this anymore. We got to push back somewhere, somehow.
Yes, I've been calling for the Dems to push back since about October. Even on the campaign trail, they just didn't have that. They were going in the wrong direction. And it is a new party. I seen the lady, I believe she's from New York. She was speaking about it the other day. There's been a fundamental shift in politics, and the left is finally waking up. So yeah, when I hear Newsom say "fuck that," you know what I'm saying? Verbatim, he'll get up there and say fuck that, it doesn't bother me. It's yeah, you know what I'm saying? Even with the Jasmine Crockett, a lot of people are critical of her, but it's kind of there has to be someone to speak for the left outside of what's been going on. They got to play the game. Right now, you got J.D. Vance getting up there calling these people Chinese peasants and shit. The left has to be able to pull views, get people riled up. When you see the MAGA movement, it's like a cult. They riding together. And the thing about that is that's what breaks through on the internet. whether for the good, the bad, the ugly, that's what breaks through. And the left is just now catching on how to, kind of break through. Like, look, let's push back, let's do. But it's legal. Like when the Texas left, not Jasmine Crockers, when the Texas Democrats left, like that didn't bother me. I mean, shit, they're saying they taking the civil fines. The guy got up there, said they've been getting a lot of grassroots donations, so they're looking like they're ready to show forth and prove where they're getting this money from. You know what I'm saying? If it comes time, I'm cool with that.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I guess for me, I just at some point, like to your point, we sit back and we say, oh, okay, like the left is kind of figuring things out or picking up on things. I think you have to also question media when it comes to it. You were talking about this earlier when it came to like independent media. Mm-hmm. And the reality is like the type of independent media that's out there that actually gives you substance, you're not getting that from the legacy media.
No, most definitely.
You got what, $200-300 million worth of free media coverage from the legacy media? They sat there talking about Biden's age, and now you sit there and you won't say anything about this man's age. So like there's a lot of other intricate pieces to that kind of stifled Democrats out of the conversation. Like we sat there for 4 straight years and talked about Biden's age and his cognitive awareness and all this stuff. I'm watching the same thing in office right now. Ain't nobody said a word about it from legacy media. Even on the right, you won't really see a whole lot of that from that type of media. So,
no, most definitely. They don't really talk about it. I mean, they kind of talked about his legs swelling up and things of those sorts. But he came out, put out the health report and kind of, for transparency, they say.
Yeah. Well, it didn't just start yesterday. The same way that, this man, the cancer note on his prostate or whatever, that didn't just start, yesterday either. So this deep vein thrombosis that Trump has, I mean, how many times have we been in the media going back and forth trying to figure out, what's true versus what's not true because this man won't release medical records or won't let us see his tax returns. Everything's just shrouded in secrecy when it comes to this guy.
Mm-hmm. No, most definitely. What I was gonna ask you is, have you heard anything about the lady from when Bush was in office, the lady over HUD saying that they spent $21 trillion on the underground cities?
You talking about Rice?
I don't know her name.
I don't even know nothing about that. You said 21 trillion on what?
On underground cities. The lady, she's from when Bush was president. She was like second in command over HUD. She's saying that between 1998 and 2015, the U.S. spent $21 trillion building about 70 plus underground cities. And she says it's a global thing going on. I think she's been doing interviews over the last few months. It's just now really starting to catch on.
I'm gonna look into it.
I'm finna play a clip of it. That's what we finna, transition the show into. Well, all right, man. I'm gonna let Dorsey call in, man. I appreciate you for picking my brain. I will look. Like I said, I have a lot of local people running for local offices between Arkansas and Texas that are itching to come on the platform and do a sit down. So I think I'm gonna open it up. I haven't really done any interviews, especially not to that extent, but I think I'm gonna do it, especially with the midterms coming up.
Do that.
All right, man. I appreciate you for calling in, Virgil.
Bro.
Dorsey, you can call back in, Dorsey. I don't see your number, Dorsey. Let me see if I can find Dorsey. Y'all be texting me some crazy shit on here, bro. Alright, here you go. I think this Dorsey.
Hey, top of the morning to you.
Man, what's going on now, Dorsey?
Oh, not much, man. I'm hearing you talking about the gerrymandering, huh?
Uh-huh.
I think that gerrymandering should be done after the census has been taken, because that's usually what happens. When they take the census, they take the number of people in the community and so forth, and then they figure out, like, oh, okay, this is what this community needs and so forth. So when they do the political side of it, say, for instance, build up a housing development, right, in a rural area. You know what I'm saying? Say about, 5,000 homes, right?
Uh-huh.
That rural area might, be a red district for a while, because probably like 75% of the county votes red, right?
Correct.
Well, when you introduce the 5,000 households into that community, well, if those people are from the city and they go blue, now it changes the demographic of that county. So then, if those 5,000 voters get involved in the politics, it can swing the voting outcome, because now you got a new influx of people. Okay, I used to live in Florida. Even though I'm from California, I lived in Florida for 8 years. And when I was in Florida, I saw how the voting went. If you was in the rural area, the suburbs, let's just say the suburbs. If you were in the suburbs, it particularly went blue. And then the city also went blue. But if you was out there where the farmers and the other people, well, they went red, because they were like, look, we're looking out for our self-interest. There's more country counties than there are city counties, because there's only so many major cities.
Right.
So the gerrymandering that's going on in Texas, I think is like they say, it's a power grab, but it's a balancing act, because you got to understand, those people who live in the city now are thinking, well, I'm a little bit more conservative now, so maybe I do shift red. Then also a lot of people in the inner city, they decide to move out in the countryside, and then they say, well, I don't want nobody to raise my property taxes, and the Democrats, if I move out here, I won't have to pay these city taxes and all these other taxes that they put on things. So, I don't know. I think in the case of Texas, I think it's a good thing. Now, Gavin Newsom talking about he gonna do it here in California. Well, he can't, because what happened is the people put into effect a governing commission that oversees the redistrict, that was neutral, meaning there was no Democrat nor Republican. So he has to go through them first before he decides to do any redistricting. And people in California we don't need that. He just blowing steam. That's it, because he knows he doesn't have the authority to do that here in California without going through the commission first. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. But do you think they're gonna push it through for him before he leaves? When he leave in 2027?
Yeah, I don't think so. Cause see, here in California, we if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is how it goes here in California. Everything up and down the coast is blue. That's going in back toward the mountains in the high desert. Now, I got some money coming to me. They're on to a little settlement and so forth. When I do get that money, I'm moving into a red county. I want the taxes and so forth from me. You see where I'm coming from? I don't want some services that, people in the city need. I don't need no after-school programs. I don't need none of that. And see, that's what people don't understand. when they put these taxes and so forth on people, you know, especially property tax, that's going to help the whole community. It's not to help you; it's to help the whole city. So you get caught in the cracks. You fall between the cracks. I see that happen here in California all the time. That's why the people was mad at Karen Bass, because the people was like, we paying taxes, but you giving all our money to the illegal immigrants. So now people here, especially in Los Angeles, they're thinking about voting red because they're like, we ain't really too happy with how the Democrats handle things here. So, like I said, Gavin Newsom just talking, you know, he's just talking crazy. Don't have the ability to do it unless you get that commission to side with them, and they're impartial. So impartial meaning they're probably not going to lean his way.
Okay.
So you know that on that gerrymandering, that's the way I look at it. Now I might be wrong in the way that I presented it, but you know I pretty much gave a simple way of looking at it.
How you feel about Byron Donalds?
About who?
Byron Donalds down there in Florida. He say gonna run for governor.
Oh man, he gonna lose.
Who gonna beat him?
Hey man, the Democrats will pull somebody up.
I just read the Democratic candidates, man. I don't think they got no smoke. Only person I think, if they talking about maybe DeSantis' wife might run, but I don't think nobody got smoke for Byron Donalds right now. I'm gonna keep it real. Not in Florida.
Understand this. Okay, now this is just my understanding, right? In Florida. I'm gonna keep it real with you. They ain't gonna let no black man be no governor in Florida. They'll flip. They'll flip first. They'll go Democrat first before they let him be governor.
He got Trump endorsement though.
Hey man, a lot of people had Trump endorsement when Trump was out there and they didn't win, right?
Okay.
And who was it that? It's not Tim Scott, because I know Tim Scott. You know, he did his little thing. But there was another black guy who was all endorsing Trump and so forth. And then when it came time for him to run, you know, the Republicans didn't back him 100% like they had did a white candidate. You know, so as far as with that, I probably believe that, you know, the Democrats they'll come up with somebody.
Yeah,
somebody
they say if he's elected, he'll be Florida's first black governor.
That's what they don't want. As much as the Republicans say they're inclusive, you know, they want everybody to be in, MAGA goes the opposite way. Am I right or wrong?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, MAGA is like, look, we want American-born WASP. You know what? White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. That's who we want to be in charge of government. Those who believe in God and believe in this and this and this. And even though the guy is black, man, they ain't gonna trust him like that. They ain't gonna trust him like that. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But only time will tell. And I don't think he got a chance. I mean, I'm willing to take a bet with anybody. Hey, I don't think he's gonna do it. And most black people probably will vote for him just so he could be the first black governor. But then on the other hand, you're gonna have a lot of Hispanics and a lot of whites who are gonna be like, nah, we don't want that. The optics.
Okay.
Because if you give that man the optics of being governor, well, guess what? For years, he's going to be challenging somebody to run for president. Because, you know, once you're a governor, the next step up is being a VP or, well, either senator, VP, or president. Look at Mark Rubio. How many times did he run for president? As a senator. You see where I'm coming from? And then Trump was like, well, you know what? You was good. You was little Marcos. You did good. I'm going to give you, you know, the third powerful office in the country, Secretary of State. So that's the political game. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah. Subject.
Nah, man, we finna get into this $21 trillion black budget, man. They saying that a lady from the Bush admin with I think she was second in command at HUD. She been going on a little press run over the last couple months saying the U.S. spent $21 trillion. They say they got the paperwork and everything. People been putting the paperwork together for it, but they saying that they got underground cities to the tune of at least 77 of them here, and more hundreds more worldwide. Like basically underground cities for the
Yeah,
world.
they've been doing that.
Yeah, but they saying that it's been paid for. Like that's where a lot of people are trying to attribute our national debt to. Like, hey, that's 21 trillion of it right there.
But understand this, man. Okay, I'm a military guy, right? Okay. For chance nuclear war breaks out, the majority of the people gonna go.
To hell or heaven.
Exactly. The few that have that, let's just say, have that privilege card to be able to get into them shelters, because that's what they basically are. Even though they're large-sized towns, they are shelters. China been doing that. China was doing that in the 60s. Vietnam did that. There were cities in Vietnam that was being built in order to protect themselves from the bombing, right? So the state said, well, shoot, because at one time we used to have what's called civil defense. The dudes with the little hats on their head, and if there was a war to break out, they would tell you, go to your local fallout shelter, right?
Right, yeah.
Now, where's the fallout shelter?
Shit, I'm in Texas. You know, they sell bunkers out here. But the thing about it is, being a black man from the South, I'm sitting here looking at it like, if I bought one of these bunkers from these folks, who's to say when I show up to get in my doomsday bunker, they gonna try to get me the fuck up out of there anyway? Like, thanks for the thanks for the donation, nigga. I'm about to build my own.
That's what I'm gonna do. Hey, you know how you gonna get them people up out of there?
What?
Dude, they got an air shaft ventilator, right? Because they got to breathe, right?
Right.
I throw a couple of smoke bombs down there, and if they ain't got no gas mask, they got to leave.
Yeah, but I'm sure they got the air thing probably way
that's for
far
the rich,
away.
you know, the air filtration centers and all that.
Yeah, but they probably
got
this.
That.
I'm talking about these ones in Texas. Look, let me show you. They have doomsday bunkers right now in Texas. You can like lease out for however long. They got them in the middle. I mean, they got them all through like the Arizona and New Mexico and shit too.
That kind of, I don't know. Cause when the world comes to an end, who gonna collect the lease money? You see where I'm coming from?
Who gonna catch? Who gonna what?
Now, see, that's the reason why I'm moving out there into the red states and the red zones and so, because I'm planning on going out there into the desert, right? And I'm probably gonna get me a little, rent a mini Bobcat.
All right, they starting at 20,000, man. They starting at 20,000, man. You got an underground shelter, tornado storm shelter, luxury grand shelter. They building you shelters right here, and then you could. Then they got places. Okay. Then they got places you can go. That's already on.
All you gotta do, bro. Is go get your back home.
You can rent this bunker for.
Did you something? Yeah,
but you can get a 90. Listen, here you go. Here goes some more bunkers too. They say this one in South Dakota, it got 575 bunkers. You get it for a 99-year lease, which is $100,000 a year, plus a $25,000 deposit paid upon signing. It says, hold on. You can buy space in a shared bunker, pre-furnished, outfitted with stock linens and household supplies for a cool $5,000, plus a monthly expense fee of $50. So you're gonna spend $25K plus the other $100K for the 99-year lease. So that's $125 plus another $5K. That's $130 plus $50 a month, which is gonna be what, $500, $600 a year. So another 6,000.
Okay,
so about 140 racks, man. 140 racks. You can lease out this doomsday bunker for 99 years. I'm saying if I give these folks my $140,000, who's to say when little old me and my family show up, they be like, "Thanks for the donation, nigga. You can't come over here." That's what I'm saying.
I'm telling you, and that's the reason why I'm telling you this way. Look, if you are kind of skeptical of it, bro, you can go out there and buy land. Now, first of all, Dakotas is the worst place to be trying to go hang out. You understand? To go hide out. You know why?
No, I'm just saying anywhere that's not my own private bunker that I put together. Like if I go through a company and it's like, yes, they can come help build it, but if I plan on going to their land over there where they got the shit set up, I'd be a damn fool.
Hey, check this out. Dakota, Nebraska, Colorado, and there's one more, New Mexico, right? Are the worst places to be trying to survive a nuclear attack. You know why? Because that's where all the ballistic bases are. So if they do decide that, it's going to be a nuclear exchange, do you know how many times the Russians going to bomb one area with hydrogen bomb? We ain't talking about no atomic bombs, bro. We talking about a hydrogen bomb. Do you know the ratio of the radius of a hydrogen bomb?
No, what is it?
40 miles. 40 miles, man. A nuclear bomb is only 5 miles. A hydrogen bomb is 40 miles, bro. You in a blast area of 40 miles, meaning you get caught up in the whole explosion. You ain't on the outskirts, you in it. 40 miles, bro.
Damn.
Yeah. So maybe if you like, and then let's see, the concussion blast, the heat flash, the airbus, all that, bro, that's going to extend for another 35 miles before it even started being able for you to live, if you're on the top. Then you got to look at the radiation fallout. Understand what I'm saying? You got to look at the fires. You got to look at, man, if it do hit, then you gone. That's why I'm trying to hurry up and get my money so I can get out of L.A.
Hell yeah. Well, look, Dorsey, we finna watch this clip, man, and then I'm gonna come back
Yeah,
for the
go
nighttime
ahead, man.
episode.
But like I said, man, you could do it for yourself. You could build your own shelter. All you gotta do is get a backhoe, dig 35 feet deep, get you one of them, what's them little shipping containers? Down there, cover it up, and then pour concrete a little bit with some lead in it so that it'll shield you from the radiation. And then you just build from there. One day, bro, when I get my money and I start doing, I'm gonna send you a video of me doing it. I'm showing you.
All right. Well, all right now, Dorsey. We'll holler at you later on now.
Yeah, I'll let you too, bro.
All
Be
right.
careful.
All right. Hell yeah, man. Let's see what this lady talking about, man. I know we just chilling.
Which was they had other ideas. They wanted to take the mortgage fraud the other way so we could have the financial crisis. Anyway, so on.
What the hell you got going on, Danny?
Well, thanks for coming here. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Thank you. I, as I said, I really enjoy your show.
So for people that don't know, can you kind of give us a summary of your background in the government, working with the Bush administration, and then getting into like finance and all this stuff?
So I grew up in Philadelphia, and I got very interested as a child I got very interested in money and why everybody was destroying everything on the theory that somehow that made them money. And so I decided I was going to understand how all the money worked in a neighborhood. And what I didn't understand till I went to Wall Street is you literally have to know how all the money on the planet works to understand how the money in a U.S. neighborhood works. Because it's organized, it's very centralized, and it's organized so that, so if you and I go to the White House, it'll say, here's how all the money works on housing, here's how all the money works in military. But it doesn't say, here's how the money works, in West Philadelphia. So you can't, now with relational databases, you could, and I've worked on that. But anyway, so I went to Wall Street because I wanted to learn how all the money, the planet works. And I went from sort of department to department to department, learning all the different markets. And then I figured out, it's all being rigged from Washington. It's the Treasury and the Fed. So I got to go to Washington. So I went to Washington. I was a partner at a firm called Dillon Read. And in fact, I have an online book called Dillon Read and the Aristocracy of Stock Profits about it's a case study in the intersection between organized crime and Wall Street and Washington. Anyway, so I went to Washington in the first Bush administration to be Assistant Secretary of Housing. And it's the Federal Housing Commissioner, and that's the person who oversees all the mortgage markets, both the credit, most of the credit, and then the rules and regulation. So, and I ran smack into all the mortgage corruption because a lot of the black budget is financed with mortgage fraud. And anyway, so I left, but I discovered the internet when I was in the administration. And so I created an investment bank that could use software tools basically to get all the information about how the money works and make it accessible to neighborhoods. So anyway, but my company, I started a company called Hamilton Securities Group. It was very successful. And we got hired on competitive bid by the Clinton administration. So I worked in the Bush administration, but we got hired by the Clinton administration to be financial advisor for the FHA. And we led $10 billion of mortgage auctions trying to stop the mortgage fraud, which was they had other ideas. They wanted to take the mortgage fraud the other way so we could have the financial crisis. Anyway, so I ended up in 11 years of litigation with the federal government, with the Department of Justice. Have you ever seen the movie Enemy of the State? With Will Smith?
It's been a long time, yeah.
I played Will Smith in real life.
Oh, wow.
I played Will Smith in real life. So we had 18 audits and investigations, 12 tracks of litigation, physical harassment, a smear campaign. It was right out of the movies. And of course, so Will Smith is a successful attorney. And in fact, his office in the movie is right next to where my office was, our company office was in Washington. And, everything's crazy and the world makes sense until he finds Gene Hackman, who's a former.
So this girl said that she lived a life of enemy of the state, man. She said she's going in litigation against the government and everything. Said that the 10 billion, I don't know however much it was, but they said they wanted to take the financial crisis the other way, man. That's crazy.
I'm gonna say
she's an insider, man. Said that the Clinton administration hired her, Bush administration kept her on.
Employee who explains how covert operations work. And in fact, now if you come to the Solari Report, we have a whole 12-part series called Deep State Tactics. So if you can't find Gene, you can listen to Deep State Tactics and understand how it all works. Anyway, but I got a real crash course. I'll never forget it. First time I saw Enemy of the State, I'm like up in the front row, and I'm like, oh, it's my training movie.
Wow.
Right.
That's amazing. So when you talk about the mortgage fraud, what specifically do you mean, and how does that work?
So financial fraud and mortgage fraud is like the joy of cooking. There are thousands of recipes, right? But if you want to know the most prominent, likely famous recipe for mortgage fraud and HUD housing, all you have to do is look up the Tony Soprano TV show did a series of 4 parts on HUD fraud by Tony Soprano.
Really?
Yes. And the basic, and it's interesting because one of the things that got me interested in money is it was this fraud that destroyed the value of homes in my neighborhood when I was a little girl. We had 4 boarded up, foreclosed properties catty-corner to our block in West Philadelphia, and it had a huge sign, and it said, by order of the Assistant Secretary of Housing, Federal Housing Commissioner. And I used to think, who is that? And so when I was sworn in, they said, by order of the President, you are now the Assistant Secretary of Housing. I thought, I'm the. And I went downstairs and I said, how many boarded up homes, how many foreclosed properties do we have in the foreclosed industry? My deputy said 50,000. I said, well, that's going to change, and that was part of the problem. But okay, so let's look at the basic fraud.
Okay.
So there's a home in the foreclosed property inventory of the Federal Housing Administration. They had financed a mortgage. They put an insurance policy on the mortgage, so they take the credit risk. It defaults. They pay off the mortgage holder, and then take back the property. So the property's sitting there in inventory. Okay. So let's say the property is worth $100,000.
So like when you find a house for sale on HUD auction, that's the situation.
Yes, probably.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Probably. Okay, so let's say the house is worth $100,000. Okay, you sell the house to someone, or you who's going to do.
What's up, Lala?
Do sort of a quickie fix up. Okay, and you let them turn around and sell it at you put a mortgage. Let's say it's worth $150 now. They've fixed it up.
Mm-hmm.
You put a mortgage on it for $250, a lot more than it's worth. They sell it to a not-for-profit who immediately defaults. You pay off the $250 mortgage and take the property back, and you keep doing it again and again and again, and generating lots of money out the back door. So when I became FHA commissioner, we would find one property in Chicago which had financed and defaulted 5 times in 1 year.
Wow.
I know. You can imagine that. Anyway, but here's how I can make even more money.
I had a friend who did this. Not a friend. He was a guy who came in. He was one of my first guests on the podcast, and he was buying up houses in Tampa, and he was taking them and getting his friend to go do appraisals on them and like marking the appraisal up by like 5x,
Right.
and then getting loans on it.
Right. That's sort of that's a variation. Now, here's how you really make a lot of money. When you issue the mortgage, you don't issue one mortgage. You issue 10 mortgages on that house, and you put them in a mortgage pool that's wrapped by Ginnie Mae, so you can sell them in Dubai, and nobody knows the difference, right? Right. And as long as there's money, you can skim out the back door of the FHA fund, no problem.
Wow.
Right. And it's really funny. So I had warned people about this kind of fraud, both when I was assistant secretary and then when I was the lead financial advisor. But,
She said 10 mortgages on one house is crazy. Selling them in Dubai is crazy.
You know what it's like when you fight these winds. And so I'm driving down the highway in Georgia, and my old roommate from college calls me, and she says, Fitz, have you seen the Soprano TV shows? They have the HUD frauds on the Soprano TV shows. And she said, I guess you're telling the truth. And I said, wait a minute. So I was the former Assistant Secretary of Housing, and then I was the lead financial advisor for HUD. And I've told you about this for years. You don't believe me until it's on the Soprano TV show. She said, that's right. So I said, that's why I say in America, fact is fiction and fiction is fact. If it's on the news, it's likely fiction. If it's on the Soprano TV show, there's a...
Oh, yeah.
You're getting your training film.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
Well, remember, during the financial crisis, within a very short period of time, there was more money shoveling out the door. I mean, the TARP IG said total money the taxpayers financed was $27 trillion. $8 trillion would have paid off all the single-family mortgages in the country. Right? So the total bailout of the mortgage fraud was 3 times all existing mortgages in the country.
That's bananas.
So one of my favorite quotes, I was told by a former intelligence officer who was involved in the financial fraud that Oliver North had said that HUD was the candy store of covert revenues. And based on what I cleaned up and what I dealt with, I'm absolutely convinced
HUD was the candy store of covert revenues. That's got a nice ring to it.
HUD's missing just from its financial statements $1 trillion from 1998 to 2015. So that's my whole thing about the missing money, which Catherine is that's one of those issues Catherine won't let go of. It keeps banging.
Okay, so can you explain to me, and I know you've done this well on other shows, but how does the banking system work? I know everybody thinks about how like the bankers control the world. It's like it's the bankers, the intelligence agencies, and the money washing with the drug cartels and all this stuff with funding, wars and overthrowing countries. And there's so much going on here. But at the very top level of all of this stuff is the bankers, right?
Right. So here's how any business, any enterprise, and any planet has a business model, an economic model on how the fundamental law. So the Western world for 500 plus years has operated on a model called central banking warfare model. Okay, the central bankers print money out of thin air, and I'm grossly oversimplifying, but they create the money, and then the military makes sure that people take it. Okay, and that keeps the liquidity going. So there are two sides to the coin. And when you say military, think intelligence in military, because surveillance is such an important part of the force. So you literally have the bankers running monetary policy, but then you have the military and intelligence backing it up. And you need both. It's like two hands of one coin. It's like two sides of a coin. Okay?
Right.
And what the bankers do, you grew up in the United States. Most people listening to this grew up in the Western world. And we've had for over a century a model where the bankers run monetary policy and then the people's representatives run fiscal policy. So the whole basis of the American Revolution was no taxation without representation. That means the people's representatives, the Congress or the state legislature, run the fiscal policy is the way it's supposed to be. And what has happened in America for the last 20 years is we've had what I call a financial coup d'etat, where the bankers decided we can't trust the people and the people's representatives to manage the fiscal side, so we're going to change the model and we're going to take over control of both monetary and fiscal. And of course, if that succeeds, and it's gone very far, but it's not all the way, so let's say we've gone 70% of the way, we have 30 more to go. If that happens, then we lose the ability to determine taxation. In other words, we get no representation. If they want the money, they just take it out of our accounts.
Could you explain for a third grader what fiscal policy means?
Sure.
What monetary policy means?
It's monetary policy means I get to create the currency. Fiscal policy means I get to collect and spend the taxes.
Okay. Got it.
So let's look how your federal government works. Your federal government, grossly oversimplified, gets about half of its money to, fix the roads and and run the military, and it gets the money by half of the money from taxing. So we all pay federal taxes, we all have fees, various fines, whatever.
Half the money comes from the taxes and half from where?
Half comes from the central bank.
Okay, got it.
The central banking mechanism right now, the currency is issued with debt. It doesn't have to be, but it is. So the New York Fed, so the Treasury, your bank account as a citizen is the New York Fed is the depository for your bank account. Okay? So they are the federal government's bankers. The Treasury account is at the New York Fed and its members' banks. So the New York Fed is owned by its members, but they also act as agent. So you're going to have the largest banks in the country owning and directing the New York Fed, choosing its president, but also, doing depository functions for the Treasury. So they, as agent, are also doing various things for the Treasury. Okay. So they have a function called primary dealer. And a primary dealer is authorized to go borrow money using Treasury bonds and bills. So they borrow money, so that's sort of part of how the currency gets into existence, and they put it in the Treasury bank account. So half comes from taxes and half comes from borrowing, a lot of that coming from your retirement account or my pension fund.
Wow.
Okay? Okay, so our retirement fund, or it could be a Norwegian pension fund or sovereign wealth fund, are buying Treasury bonds and the money's going into the bank account, and that's where half comes from. Which is why if you're the president of the United States, it's like getting an allowance from Dad. If you don't do what Dad wants, you're not going to get your allowance. You don't have sovereignty. You don't have financial sovereignty. And you don't have information sovereignty because you, as the president, can't have a private telephone call. You got 17 intelligence agencies.
Even the president.
Yeah, especially the president.
Especially the
They'd
president.
much rather know what he's saying than you or I was saying, right?
I guess that's true.
Right, okay.
Wow.
Right. So how are you going to run a government if you don't have information sovereignty and you don't have financial sovereignty? How are you going to do that?
That's a good question. What do you think?
So have you heard my red button story?
I wore Chubby's Classic Line swim trunks to the beach this weekend, and boy, am I loving their fabric.
Trade model and all of that.
Yeah.
So you have expenses, and so when you hear the president yelling at everybody at NATO, like, you have to share more, what he's saying is that the subsidy from the dollar system minus the interest on his debt minus the cost of the military intelligence is no longer working, and he's got to rebalance the model.
The subsidy?
Yeah.
What do you mean by the subsidy?
So running the dollar system, you get to extract a tithe. So let's say tomorrow we created Danny Jones dollars, okay? And whenever you wanted some, you could just print it off your computer.
Okay.
And you could pay people throughout this community for food or, or for services for doing your landscaping.
Okay.
With Danny Jones dollars.
And I have my own printer.
And you have your own printer. That's a big subsidy, right?
Okay. Yes, that
Right.
is a big subsidy.
That is a big subsidy.
That's an unlimited subsidy.
It's not unlimited if you have to pay everybody in America off to go along with what you want to do. So part of the big cost of the running the model is the American people vote based on domestic issues and don't understand what's involved in running the whole global model.
Right.
And so you've basically got to buy them off and pay them off to get them to sort of go along with whatever you want to do.
Got it.
And that's expensive. So if you look what happened at the end of when the Soviet Union collapsed, the U.S. said, we want to be a unipolar model. One of the reasons I left Washington, I said, your plan won't work. And the failure in the Ukraine was the plan failed. And now we have Rubio, the Secretary of State, saying, oh, we're going to be it's a multipolar world now.
Yeah.
So the unipolar model failed. Mm-hmm. And so the model has to change. We're still running the reserve currency, but you have to rebalance the model. The unipolar plan didn't work, and it wasted a great deal of capital.
Right.
Right. So now we have to change the model. And so if you see the president talking about, I want Canada to be the 51st state, or I want Greenland. Mm-hmm. He's trying, if he can't go east-west, remember, they were going to collapse the Soviet Union, get all those resources, and use that to maintain the unipolar model vis-a-vis China. Okay, that didn't work, so now he's talking going north-south instead of going east-west, right?
Right, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So he's just trying to figure out, you have to change the model, and if you look at the debate and discussions going on in Washington, the unfortunate thing is, whoever is in the White House, they have to change the model. They don't have a choice. The technology changes in the world, competition among various parties means we have to change the model. We have to evolve the model. We have to. And so the question is, how do you do it? And unfortunately, there are too many people in America sitting around and saying, wow, we don't want to change. But that's not... it's not changing because whoever's in the Oval Office now wants it to change. It's changing because they got to change. You have to change with the times.
I don't think most people even think about this kind of stuff. I think most people are more focused on wobbles that are irrelevant to geopolitics or the financial system or the balance of power.
That's how you keep them away from the third rail. If I'm running this, I don't want the general population to mess with the third rail. Do you know what I mean by the third rail?
Hey, double tap the screen, shut a live out, man. It's a subscribe button at the top, man. We go live every single day over here talking politics, entertainment, and current events, man. Every single day over here, most of the time, twice a day. Hit the subscribe button, double tap the screen, man. I had to eat some lunch. That's why I wasn't pausing in and talking as much, because I had to eat some lunch. I ate a bagel, a fried egg, and some bacon. You know what I'm saying? If y'all wanted to know what I just say, it was a bagel with jelly on it. Everything bagel with jelly on it.
What do you mean by the third rail?
On a transit system or a railroad system, you have two tracks. That's where the wheels go. You have a third track. There's a little trim tab that flips over, and that's where the electricity runs.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's the power. Okay, and you don't want them messing with the power, so you keep them busy with divide and conquer and the unipolar
right.
pendulum and all that kind of stuff. but that has nothing to do with what's really going on.
Right. And when you say that they need the American people to pay for what they're doing, when you mentioned that earlier, were you specifically talking about individuals, or were you talking about like lobbyists?
So here's what I mean. If you look at the federal budget last year, so the 2025 year, we had a military budget of $857 billion. And Hegseth wants to take it to $1 trillion. He says it needs to be $1 trillion. The HHS budget is $1.8 trillion. And that's because we're all poisoning each other. American people are...
I ate toast last night, so, yeah, I ate toast last night, but I ate a bagel right then. I ate toast, I did some asparagus, a steak, potato, and some corn, some garlic corn, and I had toast with that last night, so I just didn't want to double up on the toast. I had some everything bagel, so I put the bagel together, Doris.
Poison, they're chronically ill. And our if you look at our healthcare system, it's almost double the cost of Switzerland's healthcare system. So we spend more per capita than just any country in the world by a lot. And so it's very expensive. And so Mark Skidmore, who is the professor at Michigan State University, who's helped me a lot to document all the money missing from the federal government, he just finished a calculation. We just did a show with him on the Solari Report. If we cut disability, so the number of people in America who are disabled, back down to 2010 levels, you would drop that HHS budget by $500 billion.
Wow.
Right. So that's what it costs to poison your population. And that's why this battle around the HHS budget and policies is so fractious, including the fact that the government is legally liable, if the truth comes out, for poisoning Americans. Which means, if you look at what Toby Rogers says, Toby Rogers is the guy who's really tried to cost out the price of autism. So I got onto all of the HHS issues because I was an investment advisor. And what I discovered was that healthcare fraud was the number one cause of family bankruptcy or loss of family wealth. And number two, in my experience, was financial fraud. So people were just losing their wealth because they were being lied to. They were being lied to by the healthcare system.
By hospitals?
Everybody.
Really? Like legitimate healthcare organizations? Okay.
Yes. And many of those legitimate organizations really didn't know. I mean, my father was a very successful surgeon. You know, I sort of grew up. Fortunately, we'd say, "Daddy, what did you do today?" And then he'd really tell us.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. No, the dinner table at our house was very... We used to read his surgical books for fun.
What kind of surgeon?
He had, during the World War II, they had taken the University of Pennsylvania Hospital and literally picked up most of the people and the organizational structure and moved it under Stilwell to Burma. So he grew up in, or he did his internship and residency in China, Burma, doing trauma. He was a MASH unit, right? And when he came back, you know, because a lot of the big improvements they make in surgery happens in wartime because they have so much, so much opportunity. And when he came back, he worked and redesigned how the emergency room should work all over the country.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and, well, it was really funny because both sides of my family, all the competition, there were very competitive people on both sides, but it was like, okay, who did the most to save civilization today? Okay, your grandfather did this and your father did that, and, and so, for example, his father had gotten the laws changed so they could bring penicillin to Tennessee and had introduced penicillin to Tennessee.
Hey, double tap the screen. Titus said my dumb ass thought Plug was interviewing her. Just got here. Nah, but I do got some interviews coming to the channel. We're going to start interviewing local and state politicians, man, before the midterm elections. I got quite a few people reached out to me via email and on the other platforms, so we are gonna get some interviews, man. Y'all send me those candidates, man. Send me those candidates y'all want me to interview. I don't care if they left, right. I don't care if they independent, man. If they want to get on the platform, y'all got a connection to them. Hey, man, send them over here.
That had been a huge lifesaver for many people. So at the dinner table, it's like your grandfather brought penicillin to try to see what have you done today.
So, this idea that you talk about of the control grid.
Right.
Can you explain what the control grid is?
Sure. So let's say the way George Kennan at the end of World War II said we got 6% of the people and 50% of the resources. Mm-hmm. And to keep that going, we're going to have to be really tough. We're going to have to drop a lot of bombs. So Goldwater came along and he said, we're going to have to drop a lot of bombs and be really tough. And people said, no, we're good Christians. We don't want to, that's not us. So Jimmy Carter came along and he shivered in front of the fireplace and said, we're going to have to cut back. And the American people said, no, we don't want to do that. So then the Bushes, I always say the Bushes came along and said, you're all good Christians. Here's your check. Don't ask questions. Okay? So what we've been doing is we've been subsidizing the American people with...
Cheryl, you know her? I don't really know much about her. If y'all know who this lady is, press 1. If y'all do not know this lady, this your first time running across her, press 2.
The blessings of sort of racketeering around the world in the third world and running the warfare. So when you go from a unipolar to a multipolar model, you lose the ability to extract the resources you need to keep that going. So for example, if I want to trade my Danny dollar for labor and resources all around the world, and the BRICS nations don't want to take the Danny dollar, then I'm losing the ability to subsidize the American way of life. I have to cut back. So one way to cut back, so you can say, oh, well, there's a climate change emergency, we want everybody to cut back. You can try that. Or you can, throw on tariffs, and that's going to cause even more inflation. Everybody's going to cut back. But at some point, if you're really going to cut people back, it's very helpful if you have complete control. If you're the bankers and you want to control fiscal policy and collapse the current constitution system, if you can exercise complete control with digital technology and an all-digital financial system, you have complete control. So, go back to the pandemic. If we say, okay, we want you and your family to lock down, then suddenly your money won't work outside your house. You can order a pizza to be delivered, but you can't leave the house. If you have an electric car, ultimately you can turn off the electric car. And if they say, well, we want you to take the shot, and it's mandated, if you don't take it, we'll turn off your money.
Right.
That complete control.
Damn.
And this would be utilized by spending the government money and giving people money. And in addition to having a centralized, controlled digital...
This would be used by using the private and the public sector financial train tracks to exercise complete central control. So I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a wonderful video that I keep showing of Augustine Carstens, the general manager of the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, in 2020. I was brought up, basically, I was trained to be a central banker.
Okay.
And I had never seen a central banker tell the truth in open public in my life until I saw, when this happened, I almost fell off my chair.
Being sleep deprived makes you perform as poorly as someone who is legally drunk. These deficits include slowed reaction time, reduced working memory,
of what you can do with your money.
Right.
And we can enforce the rules.
So she said she was raised to be a central banker. She's been over there with what did she say, the House of International Settlements. I'm pretty sure she's been over there at Davos, just she knows what's going on. She's been on the inside, so she sees what is I'm assuming digital assets are leading us. Y'all know that it's here. I've been a proponent of digital assets, but listening to her say what she's saying, being an insider, coming out saying the $21 trillion black budget, saying that this is, all linked together, coming out with the climate change, the wars, the pandemic, just saying it like how she just put it together where it's all connected is kind of crazy to me, man. Y'all double tap the screen, shut a live out. If it's your first time on my live stream, press 1. If this is your first time in a live stream of mine, press 1. I'll give you a shout out.
Of what you can do with your money.
Right.
So if they say, Danny, your health isn't what it should, you can't eat pizza. Your money won't work to buy pizza.
Right. Or you can't travel outside the limits of your area code or your zip code. Credit cards turn off.
Right.
You go out there, so you can't buy gas, you can't buy food.
Right, but the reality is with AI and software, I can make a entirely granular control system just for you, one person at a time. Right, and so I can do it
it's
for
not a broad brush. It's very specific.
It's 8 billion, and I can collect all the data and apply my social credit system just to you. If you're good, you'll get, maybe you can travel a little bit more. If you're bad, you get locked out.
Maybe you can explain this to me, because I've never had anyone explain this to me before, but there was a story that came out a couple years ago, and I forget the name of the country, but there was a country somewhere in Eastern Europe where the United States basically offered to pay them like a couple $1 billion to mandate vaccinations and all these sort of controls during the pandemic, and they refused to do it, and they refused the money. But basically, the United States was paying another country billions of dollars for these mandates.
Right. Well, they do that all over the country and all over the world.
I don't understand that. Does not. I don't understand how that works. Can you explain, like, why? What is the benefit of us giving billions of dollars to some other random country on the other side of the world for them to lock down their own people?
So there could be many possible reasons, but one is prototyping. So, this is something you're planning on doing in your own country, and you want to see how you could get it to work in another country, and it's a prototype. A lot of times those are prototypes.
Okay.
So,
Steve, so you can find that article.
Yeah, help me to know which country it was.
Yeah.
Sounds like it might have been Hungary.
Oh, might have been Hungary. Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah.
So I found I don't have access to it, but it says U.S. ends vaccine funds for poor countries.
No, that's not it. No. It might have been. It was something that came out where the president of that country made like a public statement and called out the United States.
There was one guy who called out the United States, and then he had an assassination attempt. The 5 of the countries that refused to do the mandates in Africa, I have a big article about it. Their leaders either got assassinated or were thrown out in the next election.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a dirty game. It's a dirty game. It's a dirty game.
Yeah, Steve, it might have been Hungary. Check on Hungary, but it was one of those countries right around there.
So, my guess is, because I worked for several years with a group of doctors and scientists trying to understand what was happening with the injections, and I absolutely believe that they were trying to install operating systems in people's bodies.
Operating systems?
Yeah. So,
this just
in
got
fact,
dark.
No, if you listen, there's a great clip from right at the beginning of the pandemic when the chief scientist officer at Moderna says we're installing an operating system in people's bodies. And he, he's describing something that can be used plug and play for future vaccines. But if you look at all the material on the Internet of Bodies, you're talking about putting materials in people's bodies that make them basically easier to interact with telecommunications and digital technology.
You're talking about like the 5G stuff and like how 5G can connect to this stuff. These nanobots. There's a whole. I've done a podcast on this before. It's so bizarre and out there and like hard to grasp, but like
it's not hard to grasp at all because
it just seems like sci-fi.
No, it's not sci-fi at all. It's not, just like they're tagging livestock. I mean, one of the things that really helps you to understand what this looks like, I live in a farming community in the United States, and if you know about if you've ever studied livestock management,
no, never.
A lot of this makes a lot more sense.
What's up, Essence?
Okay.
What's up, Corey?
And they are tagging all the livestock, but this is simply a way of, if you get a lot of these nanoparticles into the human body, you're creating the equivalent of an organic barcode. Okay.
But I don't think there was actually any hard evidence that there was any nanoparticles.
So I strongly recommend we just published Patrick Wood at Technocracy News. I was the moderator. We just published the second symposium called Omnivore, and this one is called The Battle for the Brain, and it gets into the Internet of Bodies. And here's what I believe, and I'm not a scientist, so don't ask me to explain this at all, but if you look at all the patents and research and other work done on the Internet of Bodies, it is clear that there are mysterious ingredients in the food, there are mysterious ingredients in the spray, there are mysterious ingredients in the injections, and the question is what are those for? And I think it's very intentional. I don't think it's an accident. And I think one of the goals is, as the chief scientist officer at Moderna said, is to install an operating system in your body.
That's pretty dark.
Yes, it's very dark. So go to the Purdue Engineering website, to the Internet of Bodies, and look at the whole Internet of Bodies.
I'm sure you're familiar with the story of that guy Charles Lieber, who I think was a Harvard nanobiologist. There's actually a story I just saw on Twitter this morning. He just got hired by China to go work in a university in China. He got busted basically for taking millions of dollars from China to
he got busted to keep him quiet. What I believe.
He got busted to keep him quiet?
Quiet, right.
What do you mean by that?
So when you have a guy, Charles Lieber is one of the world's leading experts on brain-machine interface, okay? And he was working with the guys in China, in a very significant way. And he was I think he was the top expert at Harvard on brain-machine interface.
Right.
And they went after him early, they went after him hard, and they put him in a process where he had to be entirely shut up. And then, so they authorized Operation Warp Speed, which, remember, is a military program. And who did they put in charge of it? But they put the former head of research at GSK, who is what? A brain-machine interface expert. The guy who ran Operation Warp Speed that Trump appointed was a brain-machine interface expert.
What was his name?
Oh, it's
long. Head of Glaxo's?
Head of research.
Head of research.
He had been head of research
at GlaxoSmithKline.
Wow. And his expertise was brain-machine interface. And what's interesting, for many, many years I've worked with Clifford Carnicom on global spraying, what's in the spray, what does it do to you? And Clifford insists, we just did a huge interview with him at the Silly Report, that the materials, the biosynthetic engineered materials in the spray are exactly what's in the injections. And don't ask me about it because I can't explain it.
Huh.
Man, do y'all believe this woman on everything, or do y'all partially believe her, or do y'all believe her on nothing? One, if you believe her on everything she says so far. Two, if you believe something but not everything. Three, if you don't believe nothing.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
No, here's the thing. If you are running the planet and you are a risk manager and you're worried about all sorts of risks and you can't tell people what's really going on, the question is, you've got to turn the aircraft carrier before it hits the iceberg. And that may be 20 years before it hits the iceberg, and you can't get people to follow you. And so it's very attractive to have complete control and to be able, if you look at the amount of money that's spent to influence people to adopt this opinion or that opinion, or keep them busy or keep them away from the power line, the biggest investment almost in this society is persuading people, to believe a fake reality.
And how specifically, where does that money go specifically? Not just to news organizations or TV networks, but do you have any or what is your understanding of how money is spent to influence?
So the first thing, you spend a whole world of money on education to get the universities to present a certain kind of, view of the world and to promote certain things. So it starts with education. A huge one, of course, is media. So media is also, in all the different ways you know it, from news to social media, is affirming and encouraging people to go certain ways, and it's not just official ways, like, oh, please go, vote in the next election.
Right.
It's entrainment. It's subliminal program. There's real mind control pumping, and you're pumping that out where they're watching sports. You're pumping that out where they're watching porn. You're pumping that out to get them to think that certain things are real, other things are not real, to head them in certain directions. So you have enormous overt media and enormous covert media, right? That's affirming all those things. Now, your third big expenditure is on intelligence, because you're now tracking everybody. So with AI and software, I can track every person, and I can watch what they're thinking and saying and doing, and I can feed back to nudge them if I want them to go in a certain direction. So if I announce lockdowns and I want everybody to really lock down, then I persuade them this is all. I mean, we persuade everybody there was a pandemic when there was no pandemic. Right? Amazing.
Yeah. It's we're in a world now where everyone has their own reality, unfortunately. It seems like the idea of what is true.
He wasn't finna agree with that shit, chat. Y'all see how he Floyd Mayweather that question she just asked her? She said right, and he was like, yeah, I think everybody has their own reality. He wasn't finna agree with that shit.
True is slipping away. And it's there's so many different flavors of reality, whether that be ideological, religious, political, whatever it is. It's everybody has just a different truth on so many different levels. It's almost impossible to have any consensus of reality anymore. And
I think it's very easy.
Do you?
Yeah, because if you just track the math of time and money, it's concrete. I mean, it doesn't lie.
That's why I love you. I think that's beautiful. That's
well, do you know how I came to it? I'm a little girl in West Philadelphia, but because of who my family was and where I went to school, in 1 week I would go back and forth between all these different worlds and cultures, and I couldn't make sense of anything because everybody was lying. They were lying to themselves. They were lying to each other. I was like, I've been born into a nut house here. Mm-hmm. And so finally I thought, I have to find a way to navigate this. And so what I came up with was the mathematics of time. I love math, and that's my, math is one of my gifts. The mathematics of time and money. And what I discovered is if you could figure out the math of time and money, then you could figure out reality.
The math of time and money
right.
Can figure out reality.
Where, how many hours, you just count up all the hours, where are they putting their hours? Okay, count up all the money. Where are they putting their money? How do they spend their money? So I'll give you an example. When I was the assistant, in 1984, I overheard two guys on Wall Street, billionaire types, talking about how they were going to roll out entrainment, subliminal programming on TV. And it scared me to death, and that was it for me in TVs. I never had another TV again until the administration. I had a friend helping me decorate. I bought a big house in Washington, and she bought a TV for me without my permission. And she said, you can't work in the Bush administration unless you watch the Sunday shows. So I had it for a little while, and then I gave it away because I hate them. And because I was the FHA commissioner, I'm working with the budget for the home mortgage market. And if you're working with that and the...
What it do, money? What it do, money? Y'all drop some flames in the chat for money, man.
At the time, there was a big SNL cleanup. So I'm working with all the credit in the financial system in the budget. And because we're going through the 21, we competed for appropriations with 21 other agencies, I basically had to learn the whole budget. So I'm sitting there tracking day to day exactly what's happening in the budget. And then I'm watching, so we're over here whacking up the money in the budget. And you get on the Sunday shows and they're talking.
So she said she heard 2 billionaire types on Wall Street talking about putting something in the TV show. Did she say entrancement and something? She said she heard the 2 billionaires talking about what they was finna put in these TV shows, and she never had another TV ever since then. It's crazy. I want to know what. Wow.
Talking about what's going on, and they got this whole.
Right now, this is a whistleblower money. She worked all through Washington, all in New York on Wall Street, and she's just saying she's been going viral lately because she's saying $21 trillion. They say we about $40 trillion in debt. She's saying the U.S. spent $21 trillion in building underground cities throughout the United States, and she said it's worldwide. But right now, she's just giving background on herself and all of that, and just everything. This is a whole different interview, but she been going viral lately. They calling her a Washington whistleblower. She got hired in the Clinton administration. She worked throughout the Bush administration. She says she's been in legal lawsuits with the government for a long time.
Fantasy about what's really going on. It's got nothing to do with what's really going on. They're just like, well, yeah. And so for
It's
a year.
the Truman Show.
Exactly. It was the Truman Show. I'm watching. I know exactly what's going on because I'm looking at the money and I'm dealing with the money. And
oh, yeah, Chad, she said that the government started in 1998 building these underground facilities, and I believe they said they finished in 2015. So between 1998 and 2015, they was building underground, cities.
And they're going la 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 la, and it.
Oh, they say she been speaking. I think she's just now going viral. Somebody came here and said she was talking with Alex Jones back in the 90s. But they say she been talking, but she just now starting to go viral, I guess.
It's entertainment. It's got nothing to do with what's going on.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So, but if you follow, that's why,
What year was this?
That was 89 and 90.
89 and 90.
Yeah. 89 and 90. And that's why, so under the law, so there at the time there were 4 mortgage insurance funds, but 2 of them are most of the money. So under the law, and the big one, the single family fund, by law, the first thing I did when I got to...
She also said something about the jab, too. She said that, of course, she believes that the same stuff they spraying in the air is the same stuff they put in the quote-unquote, you know what I mean, you know what I'm saying, the pandemic, know what I mean. But so she got some hot takes. So we see she got some hot takes. That's why I'm asking, do y'all agree with everything she says, yes or no? Yes or no in the chat.
To Washington, so I read all the law related to what my responsibilities. I want to know under the law, what am I responsible to do? So I read the law, and it said that I had sole fiduciary responsibility for what was then the $320 billion mortgage insurance fund, and I was required by law to run it on a self-sufficient basis. So the premiums we charged for the credit had to cover the defaults and expenses. So I'm required to run it. So I decide, okay, I'm going to try and get money we making and losing. So I called in the budget officer. They bring in the budget, and it would have gone 2/3 of the way to the ceiling with all the budget justifications. So I'm a speed reader. I read through it several times that weekend. I called the budget officer in on Monday. I said, nowhere in this budget does it say whether I'm making or losing money. He said, that's not in the budget. I said, if I have sole fiduciary responsibility to run this on a self-supporting basis, I need to know that.
Right.
He said, well, the accountants have that information. I said, well, give me their number. I'm going to call them. He said, they report to a different assistant secretary. You're not allowed to talk to them.
See, this where she talking about the missing money here. She's saying if you follow the money, you find out reality. But she's saying that this 21 trillion black budget, and she's starting to ask questions. This is where she's starting to say she's asking questions. I guess this is what sent her on the journey to find out where they were spending this money. They say as a country we 40 trillion in debt. Her and the people around her are saying 21 trillion of that went to underground cities for global fallout purposes.
So, and I said, well, that's going to change. So, no, I had raised a lot of money for George H.W. Bush, and all I got was a pair of cufflinks, and the accountants moved over to report to me. So I did. I used all my pull, and I got the accountants moved over to report to me. They come in the first day. We are losing $11 million a day in the single-family fund. So I said, look, all real estate's local. We got 10, at the time there were 10 federal regions, they're less now. I said, we have 10 federal regions, 80 field offices. Where are we making and losing money? He said, we don't have place-based financials. I said, we mail out checks, we have zip codes. I said, this is a rush, it's an emergency, get the numbers. Yeah. Well, it turned out we were making profit in 8 regions and losing everything plus more in 2 regions, which was, it was a black budget fraud. It was the Bushes and the Clintons. It was the Texas region, which included Arkansas, and the Colorado region. It was just like...
It was a black hole of money just vanishing.
Yeah, it was the mortgage fraud. So you remember, we had the S&L crisis in '89, and that cleanup was a tremendous amount of mortgage fraud. Anyway, so I could talk about all those guys at mortgage fraud all day long. But
And then the day before 9/11, Rumsfeld says that we have, what was it, like $4 trillion that was
no,
unaccounted
he said
for?
they were missing. DOD was missing $4 trillion, but he said 2.3.
He said it was 2.3.
But it was 4. And
So y'all remember all those trillions and billions that the DOD comes up missing? Remember, they never passed an audit. What the hell? They clipped me off? Wow, they took me off YouTube, y'all. Damn. Am I still here? Press 1 if I'm still here, chat. But I think they saying y'all remember when they, soon as I said that, they clipped my damn little other part of my little camera where I was seeing y'all. But yeah, remember they said that they failed all of those audits. She's saying that a lot of this shit is going into it. A lot of the money was being funneled through black budgets. You know what I'm saying? For everything. You know what I'm saying? She's saying all of this shit is a ploy. She's saying that 6 regions or 6 places was passing, and 2 of them wasn't. It's Arkansas, the South. They was getting down in the South with the mortgage fraud and everything. And we finna see, man. Let's listen to this lady, man. Y'all double tap the screen on your way in.
I was working with a reporter, and we had a huge story coming out that Friday about the whole missing money and what it meant per person. So we had calculated for each taxpayer in each state how much you were missing. So, yeah. So that was the financial coup, which had started in 1998.
And where did all that money go?
Well, that's what I've been trying to figure out. And without the bank statements, I can't, so I've tried to map out, because money, you remember, you're too young to remember did you ever see the old Pillsbury Doughboy commercials where they squeeze down on one and it pops out someplace else?
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, so you're probably too young. So when the money started to going missing from the Treasury and the federal...
Yeah, I don't remember them squeezing the Pillsbury Doughboy. Do y'all remember them squeezing the Pillsbury Doughboy? I remember the Pillsbury Doughboy getting tickled and shit and giggling like Winnie the Pooh. You know what I'm saying? I remember that. I don't remember them squeezing the Pillsbury Doughboy till the damn thing popped somewhere else. No, I don't remember that, man. What the hell is going on?
Federal government, the offshore havens started to just balloon. So this is going down and this is going up. And anyway, but I have tried to unpack where the money's gone and what they've been spending it on. And I have a lot of guesses. But
what's your best guess?
I think it's many different things. The first thing, I think you've been financing a new system. So I call it the breakaway civilization. But I think you've literally been financing a new system, and it's like when you're running a company and you keep the old systems going and you get the new system.
Man, do y'all remember them squeezing the Pillsbury Doughboy or tickling them or both, poking his belly? Right, they was tickling him and poking his belly and shit. Right, squeezed them is crazy, money. Dorsey and Essence talking about they remember them putting the squeeze on the Pillsbury Doughboy. That's crazy, bro. No Diddy, no Epstein.
Systems up and you bring the resources over steadily, and then at some point you're ready to bring this down. And I used to say the pandemic was the breakaways breaking back in and taking over, but I think they've moved a lot of money out, and in theory, if you look at how much has been stolen, it's enough to run a global government on an endowment basis. It is.
Squeeze them is crazy, bro. They put the squeeze on the Pillsbury Dough, man. That's crazy, bro. Y'all, that shit cannot go on in 2025. Y'all telling me they put the squeeze on the Pillsbury Dough, man. The times must have been hard as hell if y'all was putting the squeeze on the His head swole up. His head swole up. Y'all squeezed the Pillsbury Dough, man, so hard that his head swole up. Man, y'all ain't right, bro. Y'all ain't right.
How much roughly total has been stolen?
So as of 2015, there was 21 trillion in undocumentable adjustment.
Here we go, right here. Here go the 21 trillion. So I seen somebody come in there and said underground cities, nuclear fallout. Yes, this is the black budget. We talking about a rogue 21. See the title of the video. 21 trillion black budget is funding a rogue breakaway civilization. I'm telling y'all. She's talking about since 2015 they done found 21 trillion missing.
But that's not cash, and it could reflect money coming in. So you could be bringing money in from the war zone. So how much is net missing? You know, it's impossible to tell. But given everything, I would be amazed if it wasn't at least that much missing. Now, what I think you've been doing is you've been making enormous investments in black budget technology and infrastructure. So, so I think you've got a huge physical infrastructure. Some of it, when you did 9/11, you were able to move a lot more black budget on budget. And so that sort of eased the pain, because the problem with black budget as of 9/11 was to get that money, you had to tell, the fraud had gotten so dysfunctional and wasteful. So you wanted to do more on budget. But, whether it's building a new governance system and a new endowment to run it, or invisible weaponry, secret space program, the infrastructure underground to platform that, I think it's all those things.
One of the theories that has been bouncing around in my head from recent guests that I've had on is that military contractors have been taking money from the U.S. government and from the Pentagon to develop futuristic weaponry, develop new physics, alternative propulsion.
Absolutely.
Crafts that have some sort of alternative propulsion systems since the 70s, or even actually probably since the 50s, I think.
Here's how it works. Okay. 47, do you understand the legal structure of how they did it?
No.
Okay. 47, you passed the National Security Act. Okay? And that gives you the ability to set up the secret infrastructure. 49, you passed the CIA Act. They literally had to kill the Secretary of Defense to do that. They assassinated Forrestal to get that done. We have a lot of interesting material on the Forrestal assassination on the Solarian. You should go through. Yeah, you should learn about Forrestal and what caused that assassination and what it did to create. You literally took several sections.
Wasn't he a KKK guy?
Don't.
Okay.
Not that I know of. He was the president of Dillon Reed. He was a partner of Dillon Reed.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought he was in the KKK for some reason. I might be thinking of someone else. Never mind.
I don't know. I've never read that about Forrestal. I've really studied him, but I don't know.
Okay.
So.
Don't worry about it, Steve.
Well, even if he was, that's not what got him killed. What got him killed was standing in the way of creating Israel and giving them the nuclear bomb. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. And he wanted disclosure on the black budget. He was for disclosure on the black budget, and he didn't want Israel. He didn't want that part of the organized crime syndicate to get sovereign powers. Anyway, what happened was they made a deal on the 49. They got rid of Forrestal. They made a deal on the 49 Act. That created the CIA.
Okay.
And that made the CIA the most powerful banker in the world. Eisenhower put him in charge of Area 51 security. And literally, once you look at how the Exchange Stabilization Fund and sort of the different money aspects of the 47 and 49 Act organized to work, you've now created this financial mechanism that combines covert violence and makes it the most powerful banker in the world. I should say, on the covert side, the most powerful bank in the world is BIS.
Didn't they use, I could be wrong about this, but didn't
BIS, Bank of International Settlements, I believe,
take a bunch of money from the budget to rebuild Europe after World War II to build Area 51?
I don't know if he used that to build Area 51. He ran a slush fund out of the Exchange Stabilization Fund from Sullivan Cromwell and before they got the 49 Act created. And part of that was to create this infrastructure, because part of it said you can appropriate to all the different agencies and then claw it out secretly to give it to the intelligence agencies, right? So they created, after World War II and all the slush fund money they got from World War II, they created a mechanism to constantly replenish the covert money. But here's the big thing. When Bush came in during the Reagan years as vice president, his deal with the intelligence agencies was he gets to run, or with Reagan, was he gets to run the National Security Council and the intelligence agencies. He creates an executive order signed by the president, by Reagan, that corporations can do highly classified work. Now, let me tell you what that means. What that means is the Treasury can issue an infinite number of bonds and use that money to pay corporations to do highly secret things, including just gifting them all of the black technology funded by the taxpayers and moving it onto their balance sheet, and do it in a secret way that generates enormous profits in the stock market.
Wow.
Okay? So now you...
Damn, she said Bush came up with that chat. Bush did that. Damn. Press 1 if y'all knew that. Press 2 if y'all did not know that, man. They saying Bush did that. They say Bush was playing with that paper.
Wait, now, what's the number one source of campaign contributions?
Things like this.
Capital gains.
Capital gains. Okay.
Capital gains. I have a stock, it's trading at a multiple of 20. I give you $1 million a year contract, that goes up by $20 million. Goes up. That creates capital gains for the investors and the executives, who then turn around and they or their law firms make political contributions. It's a kickback system.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
So if you read my book, I have an online book called Dylan Reed and the Aristocracy of Stock Profits, and it was designed to explain to you how that kickback system works.
Right.
Because, and the quote we have at the beginning is an old New Jersey street saying, make a law, make a business. So every time the government does something that makes stocks go up, they get a kickback of campaign contributions from that.
Right.
And of course the taxpayers funding the whole thing. Now, let's go back to corporations. Now I can transfer trillions of dollars of invaluable black technology into the corporations and fund them with taxpayers' money to own and develop its...
I think she is talking about Bush Sr. I think she is talking about Bush Sr. right there, Chad. Yeah, I don't know. It said HW. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that look like, man, I don't know. That kind of look the same, man. I don't know if that's Lil Bush or his daddy, man.
secretly and keep it away from FOIA. So you and I can put in a FOIA and we can't find out because it's behind the corporate veil.
Right. Now, one of the fears about this is that allegedly since the 50s when they started working on some of this stuff, is that it's gotten so advanced in these black corporate, or these black military industrial complex, aerospace corporations, whatever you want to call them, that they've become essentially more powerful than the U.S. military.
Correct.
Because of the technology that they have power up, they own.
Now, I can't say that it's more powerful than the U.S. military because they need the U.S. military to do a lot of what they're doing.
Well, essentially, the way it was described to me is that these corporations or these organizations basically are so powerful and have such advanced technology that they have their own Air Force, their own military, their own Navy, everything.
Right. And we've had senators stand up and say this, but what I call them is a breakaway civilization.
Right.
They have broken away, and they are so much more advanced. Now, if you look at their assets, what I would say, if I could assert jurisdiction, those are our assets. They're either gifted or stolen. They belong to us. But it's not corporations who have a lot of technology. it is a breakaway civilization, and they literally think of themselves as a separate civilization and not subject to our laws.
Separate from not only the United States, but separate from the world, from all
Separate
nations.
from the human race.
Separate from the human race.
Right. In other words, so I'll give you an example, and I've told this story many times before. When I was at HUD,
True Classic isn't just a shirt. It's designed to feel good and make you look even better. They cut their shirts to fit my physique and not just the general human form. Yeah. And they're just enormous. They're just these caverns with, like, I would say they're 100 feet tall on the inside. And it looks like New York City underneath a mountain.
Really?
They're insane. And I would imagine it could be easily converted into some sort of underground city, but they're salt mines apparently. And there's just like lines of semi-trucks driving through them.
so I live half the year in the Netherlands, and the power of Northern Europe grew up on the fish.
Look at that right there.
Oh wow!
Sorry.
I bet that's Poland. I don't know.
So, yeah, where's it at, Steve?
It's huge salt mine planetarium. I don't know.
Click the link. Boop, 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 boop. About.
Dracula grave? Really?
You can find
So
it, Steve.
Northern
We believe
Europe
in you.
grew up on the cod and fishing. A huge amount of the wealth in Northern Europe came from the ocean, from the fish.
Right.
So I live in Friesland, and one of the things that made the Frieslands were amazing world travel.
Yeah, that's crazy that she says she live over there half the year, and then I'm trying to get back to y'all. That like the Dutch government, I think they just label Israel like a foreign threat. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. The Dutch government has also labeled Israel as a foreign threat to national security for the first time, citing alleged disinformation campaigns targeting Dutch citizens and attempting to influence public opinion and politics, particularly following riots linked to Aviv fans in November 2024. The National Coordinator for Security and Counterterrorism reported that Israel circulated documents with an unusual and unwanted personal details about Dutch citizens to journalists and politicians. It says, additionally, Netherlands has taken steps to restrict arms exports to Israel. A court ordered the government to freeze exports of the F-35 fighter jet components, and in August 2025, the government revoked 3 naval export licenses to Israel. Despite these actions, the Netherlands continues to export specially trained dogs to Israel, drawing criticism from human rights groups. But yeah, I just thought about that because she says she lives half of the year over there. I just thought about that.
Travelers, and they figured out how to get the salt from the Polish mines and salt the cod, so you could put cod in a barrel, salted, and you would have animal protein that was good for 10 years, so you could sail anywhere in the world.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, it's in Romania.
It's Romania.
All the way out.
Okay, well that would be consistent with Dracula's grave.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There's insane photos and videos of this place that are just mind blowing and kind of terrifying
beautiful?
too.
It reminds me of Total Recall.
Yeah, look at that. It's wild.
So I will tell you that in my opinion, you have a corporate infrastructure which is literally out of control. Mm-hmm. So one of the things, I used to have these fights with the defense contractors because I was required to get the accounts when I still needed data, and the systems were run by the big defense contractors at HUD, and they would refuse to give me the data, so I'd have these wars with them. It's like, who really runs HUD? Is it the defense contractor, or is it the person who's legally responsible? Right. You would have these huge fights.
And then one of the biggest problems is like you were alluding to earlier is they control the government by lobbying, right? Like they
can control the government by killing people who don't do what they say. That's how they control the government.
Right. And lobbying.
Lobbying, I mean, they're different layers, but, I'll give you an example. So I litigated with the federal government for 11 years and then fought with the IRS. And anyways, 11-year shaggy dog process. And when it was over, I didn't want to go back into the investment world without explaining what had happened. So I wrote an online book called Dylan Reed and the Aristocracy of Stock Profits. I've tried to publish it 3 times. The last time, each time I ran into just enormous headwinds and problems and threats. But the last time they threatened to kill somebody in my family. So I just...
What?
Yeah.
Who?
I can guess where it's coming from. I know how it was delivered. And I know who delivered the messages, but who started it, I can guess, but I don't know. But I took them seriously. I thought, okay,
it was delivered through somebody, like in person, through somebody you know?
Yeah. 2 were acquaintances, 1 was somebody I know, but it's very carefully crafted so that the people who deliver the message don't necessarily understand what they're a part of, but...
Right.
And I thought there was a reasonably good chance that they would do it. So I did. You never know.
And you just published this book on your website?
It was already on. It was already online, so I just left it online. It's not censored. It's there.
Right.
Oh, she must be naming names.
Okay, so so first of all, what is the Bank of International Settlements, and how are they tied to this breakaway civilization?
So the Bank of International Settlements is a central bank of central bank. So
the big dog.
The 63 largest, most important central banks in the world belong to the BIS. The top central bankers meet there regularly. They have a group called the Financial Stability Board that defines systemically important institutions, which to me appear to essentially get some of the benefits of their sovereign immunity. And they have the power to move money and hold it on their balance sheets secretly. So if there's 21 trillion missing from the U.S. government, in theory, you could move that 21 trillion to the BIS and have it sit on the BIS all day long and use the BIS to move it to lots of countries who then donate to the Gates and Clinton Foundation, for example. I'm using that as a theoretical example.
Sure.
See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But because they have sovereign immunity, we've created since World War II a whole network of organizations around the world who have sovereign immunity. They're above the law. So we have, we have parts of the UN, we have the World Bank, we have the IMF. They have all sorts of different variations of sovereign immunity. We have a whole bunch in Latin America. And we've created this meta structure using international treaties or using the sovereign immunity entities for all sorts of behavior and economic activities that are not subject to our national laws.
Essentially for running the world, because if you want to run the world, you can't obey the laws. If you're the, I think you've used this analogy before. If the world is your house,
right,
and you're the owner of the house, there's certain things that you have to do that.
Right, and it allows you to move a lot of money and a lot of data and information secretly.
When we talk about these banks and the people that are running these banks, like, do we know who the individuals are?
So in my experience, the system is run through committees, consensus. So I'll give you an example. When I was on Wall Street, a lot of the money in the United States is run around the federal budget, okay, because it's such a big portion. In any county in America, 40 to 50% of the income comes from the federal budget, okay? So it really drives the economy. Okay, so the appropriations, sort of their plan for the next year. And so their recommended appropriations come out from the committees. And then the big questions, the big things to be debated or figured out or questions are rolled up and sent out to the Bohemian Grove. Everybody comes out to the Grove, they meet, and they chew over the big things, and then they make their decisions, and then that goes back to Washington. Everybody's on vacation, and then the staff gets everything ready to vote for the budget in September, and then the new budget goes forward in October. And if that process breaks down and you have a real food fight, then you've got a real...
Oh, y'all did say she was on Alex Jones, and you remember, didn't Alex Jones one of the only people to get footage inside of Bohemian Grove?
Yes, but the big decisions are made by consensus, and, you use, whether it's a Bilderberg meeting or
Council of Foreign Relations.
They're a little bit different, but
Okay.
or executive committee of the Council on Foreign Relations. You have these meetings where you get people from all different industries, all different occupations together,
Davos.
so they can coordinate and collaborate, and they make these decisions very much by committee or consensus process, which is why once they agree to something, everybody hates to, you can't bucket because, we've told 20 different industries we're going to go to the right, and so you can't just go to the left, you hiccup everybody.
Can you explain to me exactly what the Bilderberg Summit is all about?
So I'm not that familiar with the Bilderbergers. I mean, I never, if you look at who I worked with,
Yeah.
I mean, I worked with some people on Wall Street or in Washington or in the Bilderbergers, but it was simply a more international version. And my guess is, if you look at, we grabbed so much booty at the end of World War II. I think that one of the initial goals of the Bilderbergers was to manage that, that sort of pot of money.
I heard that Peter Thiel and Eric Schmidt were the representatives in the United States for the Bilderberg Summit.
So more recently, that's possible because the tech is so important to build the control. So, I hate to say it, the 21 trillion is, we sort of sucked out as much money as possible and put the government on a debt trap. But if you look at what they're doing now they're stealing all the data, and it looks to me like they're building up to steal the rest of the assets.
What's left?
There's, if you look at if you have an AI and you want to build a control grid and a social credit system, the most valuable data you need is payment data. And so taking the Social Security, the IRS, and the Treasury payment data, it's the most valuable data, or some of the most valuable data in the world.
Oh, wow.
Right. So that's worth, it's funny, Naomi Wolf and I were trying to cover this at one point, and she said, that data's worth more than $1 trillion, and it is. And it's interesting because Musk was out raising capital for XAI and had to deal with Palantir AI at the same time. And my guess, I think...
Palantir has an AI?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Well, according to published reports, XAI and Palantir had made a partnership, and when Musk was sucking all this data out. And my guess is that data is, they sucked it into the AI on the just do it method.
What do you make of everything Elon is doing and Doge and buying X and...
Well, let me come around to that.
Okay.
And
Not yet. We can watch it in a minute, Gito.
and I'll the other thing is, and this is from a video, an interview Howard Lutnick said. He said, don't worry about so he's the Secretary of Commerce, but he was a primary dealer. And he was the guy who lived next to Epstein for many years, okay? Mm-hmm. He lived next door. Okay, right. So Lutnick says, don't worry about the $36 trillion of debt because we have, on the U.S. balance sheet, we have 500 trillion of land and mineral resources, which is true. The federal government owns a huge amount of the land in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Right, and during Trump, in fact, he ordered up a geological survey that would allow basically to map 100% of the mineral resources in the country. So if you want to plunder the U.S. balance sheet, it's worth a fortune. It could create, new kind of Rothschild and Rockefeller fortunes if you plundered it.
This is crazy stuff.
No, it's not. It's just money.
It's just money.
No, but here's the thing. We have one problem in the United States. We have a secret governance system. And that secret governance system has decided to change how we're governed and managed. And we're having a big disagreement because they want central control, and digital technology will allow them to do that for the first time in history. And we don't want that. We want to be free. So we're having a big debate about whether or not we're going to go to a complete control grid or we're going to be free. That's the debate. And whether the breakaways can break back in and say, okay, we're dictating to you, now that we've stolen all your money, we're going to dictate to you how you're going to live.
So who is it that specifically that wants this control grid? Is this just some evil group that is decentralized from the U.S. government, somehow has control over them? Or is this sort of just like a diaspora of good and evil that is littered throughout the entire U.S. government?
So So, think of this as a dynamic discussion back and forth between the population and the people who are responsible to manage the planet. And if you come up through.
Gia, this is a lady that worked as second in charge of HUD under the Bush administration. She was hired by the Clinton administration, and I believe the podcaster is Danny Jones that's interviewing her.
The layers of the financial system, both the bankers, the insurance, the whole thing, and then the people who make the top governance decisions, and I can only guess who they are, but I have some guesses. They are responsible for the intergenerational pools of capital, and they were responsible for risk. And they, over the last 50 years, in my experience, they have been exceptionally frustrated. They find managing the general population very frustrating and scary. Because remember, occasionally you have revolutions and people get guillotined, right?
Yeah.
So they're afraid. My personal experience is they're very afraid of the general population because they are few and we are many. Right. And they're risk managers and they think in very long. And what's happened is, particularly in the United States, you have a huge cycle of disrespect now between the general population and the people responsible to lead the financial system. And the more the criminals get away with really bad stuff, the more they hate the general population. And it's become a very ugly cycle of disrespect in a way that didn't exist when I was a kid. So, and that is dangerous because, well, look at the Great Poisoning. I mean, we have the U.S. government systematically poisoning and killing the population. The COVID pandemic was a mass atrocity. You've killed millions, or you've killed or disabled millions of Americans intentionally.
Why do you think specifically they did? Does this have anything to do with depopulation?
It has to do. So the budget deal in 1995 broke, and that was it was described to me by the top pension fund, the president of the largest pension fund in the country described it to me in 1997. He said, they've given up on the country. They're moving all the money out starting in the fall. So a concerted effort was made to put the government and the retirement system on a sound financial basis. It didn't work. They decided, okay, we're just going to start pulling money out. That's when the financial coup started. And that is when decisions started to be made that systematically lowered life expectancy. And from 2000 to 2017, well, ever since then, I've been on every radio show or internet show that will have me talking about the 21 trillion missing. And that's because it's a formula. You have retirement funds. If you won't fund them, and the political wheel made it very clear in 1995, we refuse to fund them. You only have another way to balance the budget, and that's to lower life expectancy. And
so we don't have to pay them.
Well, if you look at the charts, literally from when that budget deal busted, life expectancy started to fall. So here are the other 19 industrial countries, and here's the U.S., and it starts to go down, 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 and then the pandemic, it drops off the cliff. And the divergence between... during the pandemic, the people that were most affected were elderly or people that were already on death's door with multiple comorbidities. It's a little bit more complex than that, but yes, and the latest reports from Social Security is it's working. Social Security has improved. Here's the thing, I'm going to be a tough guy. This is a formula, so you either put the money in.
Tapering the Ponzi scheme, I've heard.
It's not a Ponzi scheme, but if you're not going to fully fund it, then you can lengthen retirement age or you can lower life expectancy. It's a formula.
Right.
And if the body politic refuses to do the financially responsible thing, then you got two choices, and you can't get there by delaying the retirement age. That won't work politically. So you just poison the pot. You just put them on a slow kill. Happened, and you can say, oh, the bankers are bad guys, but if you saw the confirmation hearings for Kennedy's appointment, I mean, what you saw were scores of senators
Yes.
refusing to take responsibility for a chronic epidemic among our children, which is an extinction level event. That, that was not the banker sitting in the City of London. That was senators sitting in Washington refusing to take responsibility. It's one thing to say to Kennedy, we don't like your plan to end the chronic epidemic, of illness among our children. Here's a better plan. But they wouldn't own it. They just want to say, no. It was, that is a society that will fail. I mean, if you've ever...
This is because a lot of those congressmen and senators were paid for by pharmaceutical companies, right?
There are many plausible explanations. I'm good.
Right.
So they could have control files. They could be bribed. They could be mind controlled. They could be not care. They could, there are many possible reasons, none of which are good. But what they're not is they're not competent to be a U.S. senator.
Totally.
Right. They don't.
Crazy.
And if I'm the bankers and I want to control fiscal policy, I've proven on national TV that the people who run fiscal policy are not competent to run it. Because the HHS budget is bankrupting the country. And it's not just bankrupting the country. I was an investment advisor for 10 years, and the way I learned all about this is watching the healthcare system bankrupt families. So that's my, I'm angry about is there is no reason why our economy can't be highly prosperous and successful. But it can only be successful if the people are successful, if our children are successful, if our families are successful. That's what it takes to have a successful civilization.
But how do you push back this sort of, for lack of a better term, crony capitalism that seems to be intrinsically tied to the U.S. government, and it seems like all that matters is that, and then the people are like the middle class is being gutted. There's more billionaires being. So
here's what you do. The first thing you do is you bring transparency. So that's your business, right? You're trying to bring transparency to what's going on, right? Second thing is you describe the solutions. And the real solution is when millions of us proceed to behave, because right now, the people who are implementing all the evil doing, all the poisoning, all the control grid, the people who are implementing it, you know who they are? Us. We're implementing this. I could walk in.
Man, child, I was thinking about that time I fell asleep on here and y'all was on my ass, man. Dang, I was asleep. Y'all said I was asleep for like 20 minutes.
To a room of health freedom activists, get all their retirement funds, pull together all the stocks and show them they're financing it. They're putting, they're supporting, we are going to work and implementing this. We are putting our money into this, and we have the power to change that overnight. If 10% of the people in the country called up their broker and said, I am not financing any of this evil doing, pull my money out of all these bad guys, I'm not going to buy them, I'm not going to support them, I'm not going to date them.
Pull our money out of the banks.
Pull your money, shift your money to the banks that are good. You've got a tremendous number of great banks and honest bankers in this country who would love to diminish this.
What are the good banks?
So if you go to Solari, we have an article called How to Find a Good Local Bank, and we have a 4-part series on how to identify and find a great bank or credit union.
Okay.
But it's a...
I take it JP Morgan's not one of the good ones.
So we have a very interesting document. If you do a search on Solari for JP Morgan Chase.
Oh, really?
We had a subscriber after the financial crisis, and in my personal experience, JP Morgan was deep in the mortgage fraud at FHA and the government. So she continued to bank at JP Morgan Chase, and I don't know if you know how the Madoff fraud worked.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Okay, so Madoff after the mid 90s he had two businesses. He had a brokerage business and he had the money management, the Ponzi scheme. Mm-hmm. And the Ponzi scheme only had one bank account at JP Morgan Chase. So I was interviewing Helen Chapman, who's one of the attorneys who litigated the Madoff. She'd been a Madoff victim but represented other Madoff victims. And I said to her, I said, Helen, who was the securities custodian? If J.P. Morgan Chase was the bank account, who was the securities custodian? And she said, there was none because he never bought any securities. And I said, but Helen, that means J.P. Morgan Chase controlled the whole time. In other words, under the laws, they knew that Madoff was not buying any securities because there was no securities custodian, and the money, in fact, they would run with huge balances at J.P. Morgan Chase, according to her interview.
Wow.
Right. They were the senior partner.
That's insane.
They were the senior partner. So it's an amazing interview. Anyway, so I had this person put together a list of every criminal and civil money penalty that J.P. Morgan Chase had paid from 2006 to, I think it's 2018. It's up to Larry. And then we had our editors go through it very, very carefully. And we found $42 billion of civil and criminal money penalties for financial, activities that I would describe as, they clearly knew they were defrauding people and harming people. And, so my question is, why is anybody, if an institution would do that, now, I can make arguments where it makes sense for somebody to have their money at J.P. Morgan Chase for things we don't need to go into. There's all sorts of esoteric reasons. But I would say that a majority of people who are free to move their money out of J.P. Morgan Chase, why don't they? Why wouldn't you act in your own?
So convenient. The app, have you ever used the app? It's great. They got Zelle. You can send money with Zelle to anyone super easily.
So, having been...
I don't think people have time to think about this stuff, like normal, everyday working people.
So you're saying do business with the Russian mob because it's convenient?
I mean, if I knew I was doing business with the Russian mob, no, I wouldn't do that.
Right. So what I'm telling you is, if you will do business with people who steal and defraud, then it's
I would choose not to if I knew about it.
Crime that pays is crime that stays. Okay, so, and the basic, and this is from a video, an interview Howard Lutnick said. He said, don't worry about
what do you think what is his motive in all of it?
50 different items of what he's doing.
My bad, chat, but what he was saying right there is about J.P. Morgan Chase, what she was saying. I think they got popped manipulating the gold and silver market like a couple years ago too, like 2022, 2023. I believe they got caught manipulating the gold and silver markets too.
And if you look at what they're doing with the Genius Act and stablecoin, he said no CBDCs, but stablecoin. So I don't know if you've read the Genius Act, which is the new plan for stablecoins. Okay, a CBDC would be issued by the Federal Reserve, so presumably the New York Fed and the Fed member banks. Okay, now they are owned by their members. So Citibank, J.P. Morgan Chase, they own as members. They own the New York Fed and basically govern it. Okay. And the New York Fed is the depository for the Treasury, and the different banks work as agent to do those transactions, okay? So now under the Genius Act, what they're saying is the guys who own the New York Fed are all going to create subsidiaries and issue stablecoin, which will be interoperable and can work with a social credit system. Now, here's the beauty of it. The New York Fed, under the law, has direct obligations to Congress, and Congress has jurisdiction over them. If you do it through the owners of the Fed, through their private subsidiaries, you're going to have some degree of freedom. So it gives you more freedom.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so if you think this is improvement, you have another thing coming. Anyway, but what they're planning to do on stablecoin, which I have to say as a financial matter is quite clever. Remember the pallets of cash you sent to Iraq?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This is going to be the digital equivalent of the pallets of cash sent to Iraq, because what they want to do with stablecoins. So a stablecoin is just a bank deposit or a treasury bill or bond. So it's fully collateralized by $1. Mm-hmm. You put $1 in, and these stablecoins are going to, you have some stablecoins that do gold or other things, but these are going to be $1. And this is going to create a huge market for the treasury bills and bonds. And the bank subsidiaries will create the stable coins that will be fully collateralized in treasury bonds or bills. Mm-hmm. But then you can send them out on Google Payment and Apple Payment and all the wallets around the world, and literally you can get people from Bolivia to South Korea coming into your state and using stable coins. So you're literally going to tender for the global population, try and get everybody off of their local currency into stable coins, and you're going to pump out massive amounts of private credit to make it really attractive. So you're just going to hand out money and get everybody on the dollar.
And you don't think the BRICS would try to compete with this?
Of course.
They would, right?
Yeah, of course.
And do you think this is something that could legitimately be implemented? And if so, how soon do you think they would start doing this?
I think as soon as you pass the Genius Act, it can go very, very fast.
Where are we at right now with the Genius Act and it getting passed?
I'm assuming it's going to pass sometime soon. Doesn't pass before the session breaks, it'll pass in the fall, is my guess. So it could, you could really see the world rock. Now, our problem in America...
Is Trump aware of all this stuff? Or what do you think, what is his motive in all of this? Or not his motive, but is he
catty cornered?
Damn, I'm sorry, I keep, I keep messing it up.
Going to pump out massive amounts of private credit to make it really attractive. So you're just going to hand out money.
But I appreciate y'all for subscribing, man. Double tap the screen, shut the live out. Subscribe button is at the top.
Of course.
They would, right?
Yeah, of course.
And do you think this is something that could legitimately be implemented? And if so, how soon do you think they would start doing this?
I think as soon as you pass the Genius Act, it can go.
So I didn't know anything about the Genius Act. Press 1 if you knew about the Genius Act. Press 2 if you did not know about the Genius Act, man. Has the Genius Act passed? This was a while back. Let's see if the Genius Act passed. Did the GNI Act pass? Yes, the Genius Act passed. So the Genius Act passed the House and the Senate. Did Trump sign the Genius Act? Yes, Donald Trump signed the Genius Act into law Friday, July 18th. Establishes a federal regulatory framework for stablecoins, which are cryptocurrencies pegged to stable assets like the dollar. The House passed the Senate version of the bill. Trump signed it in a White House ceremony attended by crypto industry execs. Lawmakers call it a major milestone, perhaps the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the internet itself. Okay.
Go very, very fast.
Where are we at right now with the Genius Act and it getting passed?
I'm assuming it's going to pass sometime soon. Doesn't pass before the session breaks, it'll pass in the fall, is my guess. So it could...
Circle.
You could really see the world rock. Now, our problem in America...
Is Trump aware of all this stuff? Or what do you think what is his motive in all of this? Or not his motive, but is he basically a useful idiot here?
So, I don't...
What do you got? Circle, what is Circle? USDC. Then you got USDT. Tether's still around, y'all. Then didn't the Tron network, what was it, Justin Sun them, didn't they have a stable coin? I think XRP has a stable coin. It's a few of them that got stable coin.
No Trump.
Yeah.
I lived in New York for 11 years, and the PR firm we use did his business too. Everything I know about Trump, I know from Howard Rubenstein and Company.
Wow.
Anyway, but I think Trump is in a box, and all I see, I have to judge people by what they're doing, and what it looks to me like Trump and Musk are implementing the control grid at high speed. And don't believe me, go look at that list, because what you have to say is, okay, to do a control
What's
grid,
up,
we
Penguin?
need digital ID implemented that's very high quality, high precise. Check the box. We need an all digital financial system. Check the box. You know, we need a way of doing interoperable money. Check the box. If you look at what Doge is doing, we need a social credit system. Check the box.
Wait, what do you mean by that? What Doge is doing?
Doge is, from what it looks like to me, and I'm basing my assessment of what I know from Doge includes, you know, I read the Financial Times, I need to read the Wall Street Journal, and I need to read Wired. Wired has done a very thorough job of trying to document what's happening in the systems. And I think basically what they've done is they've taken, so if I wanted to stop fraud in the U.S. government, I would say there's 20 trillion missing from DOD, there's $1 trillion missing from HUD. I'm going to go in, figure out where it went, and get it back.
Right.
That's not what they did. If you said to me, I want to build a social credit system that can be used to enforce control against the American people and basically lock them down with both enforcement and social credit, I would go get the Social Security data, the IRS data, and the Treasury payment data, and that's exactly what they did. And I would privatize it. I would just take it and put it in private AI with XAI and Palantir AI, and if Palantir still has the contract with Treasury and the IRS to enforce, you got everybody. And you add the Kennedy's aggregating the healthcare data, you put it with the healthcare data. Now Danny, they've been aggregating this kind of data. I used to call it the data beast. So they've been aggregating this kind of powerful data since the 90s. So I don't think this is all new. So for example,
IRS data, healthcare data, and combining it all together into one system combined with AI.
Right. But I think this time the federal government has generally done a pretty good job of siloing the data to protect privacy laws for many applications. But I think this unsilos everything and moves it private and puts it on an out-of-control basis is my guess as to what's probably happened. Now, this is conjecture, remember, but if I wanted to build a control grid, that's exactly what I would do.
Let's take a quick break.
Damn.
Okay. I got to use the restroom. We'll be right back. I'm curious about...
I'm not gonna lie, she just threw me off with that one. She just, like, wow, I don't even got nothing to say, Chad. Like, sound about right to me.
Oh, Joseph Farrell.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what you know about him, your connection to him.
So, you know, I've worked with him for years. We're very close.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
How did you guys meet? Are you back up, Steve? Okay.
So I met Joseph by reading his books. I started...
Yes, 20 trillion missing. 20 trillion missing from the DOD and 1 trillion from HUD, they're saying.
Reading his books, and I just concluded he was a great scholar. It never occurred to me that I could get to know him. And then I met him, and we started to work together. And every quarter we do a 5 to 10 hour recording called News, Trends, and Stories. It's basically going through what happened over the last quarter of the last year. We do 4 a year. And we look at everything that's going on a very integrated basis. So we go through the top, we'll define the top 10 to 15 stories, and then we go through something called unanswered questions. Mm-hmm. And we're both great believers in framing questions. If you don't have the intelligence you need to know for sure what's going on, mm-hmm. you can still define questions and use those questions to learn more and more and more and get to the point where you know more. So we have a section called unanswered questions and then one called inspiration. And we spend we just finished a 10-hour recording.
Really?
The number one story was 3 hours. It was the Trump the first 70 days.
So my understanding, for people who don't know who he is, my shallow understanding of Joseph, his background, is he's published 10 books on how there is this breakaway civilization of Nazi origin.
So Joseph, the thing you have to understand about Joseph is a great scholar. Mm-hmm. He is a scholar. He has his PhD from Oxford. He studied patristics and ancient Christian theology, and he intended to have a very serious academic career. And he proceeded into academia after having his doctorate. He grew up in South Dakota and walked smack into the fact that the American academic institutions were all not interested in serious scholarship and were headed the wrong way. And he literally ended up at one point working in a casino as a dealer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, trying to support himself. So then he just started writing books about, sort of what's going on. And he focused on, so again, we've been talking about the breakaway civilization. Who's really wanting things and why aren't they doing what and he'll go way back in history. He'll go back 1,000, 2,000 years. The Venetians, how have the Venetians and the Venetian model rolled into the central banking model, or how did the Nazis roll into the breakaway civilization? He does a lot on the secret space program, and he's absolutely brilliant. And what happened to me was I was an investment advisor, and Joseph was the only, when I tried to explain to the people who were doing shows related to the stock market and the financial system, they couldn't incorporate the black budget. And the covert side of the economy was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you couldn't explain what was happening in the financial system by using the official reality. And so what I discovered is, even though Joseph's expertise is patristics and theology and ancient history and all these other things, he was better on the financial system than the financial guys, because he could integrate all the information related to the secret governance system and science. He's very good on science. And so he and I worked more and more closely together. And he's had a very
Yeah, G-Though, man, it ain't no big thing for me. Like, this is what, one of the things that I really like. Y'all know I've been in digital assets for a while now, so just hearing her talk about the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, hearing her talk about Davos and how the money moves and the mortgage fraud, and 2008, I told y'all, like, I was like 16, maybe like 15, 16. I remember my pops going to get a motorcycle because he didn't want to keep buying high-ass gas. He walked to work sometimes, like, and shit. It was just because he worked right up the street. But I remember those times. I remember him starting a garden, just, preparing, like, yeah, some shit was going on. But yeah, G-Though, this the kind of shit I like listening to sometimes.
Found impact on me, because one of the things he taught me was we can't save the government necessarily, but we can save the culture. And when he said that, I had no idea, Danny, what that meant. It's like, I'm an investment banker. How do you save a culture?
Right,
I don't know what to do. And he really got me to understand the power of each one of us. I knew about this financially, but each one of us in our personal lives, building the culture that we want to live in, and doing it with all of our time and money. And anyway, so we've collaborated both on the cultural issues as well as the geopolitics and news. And I don't know any person. So he was also worried, as I was, about the plunder we're seeing in the government. And we've always known, as these guys plundered all around the world, that they've said they were going to come back and plunder North America. So he just published a book on Reconstruction after the Civil War, because he wanted to warn people, this is what plunder looks like. Okay. So, anyway, but he's
So she's saying that they planning on coming back and plundering America eventually. We just heard her say that the reason that the government is really not worried about the 36, 37, 40 trillion dollar deficit is because they're saying between land and mineral resources, the federal government has 500 trillion in just land and resources. They have 500 trillion. So that's the reason she said that they're not really worried about that 40 trillion deficit that they keep throwing around. And they said Trump ordered a survey of all federally owned lands and the mineral resources to see what's going on. Straight up. Double tap the screen, shut a live out.
Absolutely brilliant. And if you look at the content that you've covered on your podcast, there's no topic that you've talked about that he's not,
right?
Has something. He has something fascinating to say about anything. The other thing I did with Joseph that was just a blast, and remember, we're constantly in cahoots, is I crowdfunded, Solari crowdfunded a digital organ for him.
A digital organ?
I was at his house one day, and I said, Joseph, you're not yourself. And he said, I just dealing with the content we deal with, it's depressing. And I said, well, what do you do for fun? He said, I love to play the organ. He plays the organ. And I said, well, why don't you go play the organ? He said, I can't because all the churches, the insurance companies won't let other people use it now, so the churches won't let me play their organs. And I said, well, how much does it cost to buy an organ? And he said, well, you can get a digital organ. And I said, okay, well, we're gonna do a crowdfund for a digital organ. And it was during the campaign in 2016, and literally there were about 200 people in the Solari network who crowdfunded a digital organ for Joseph, and it was like a whole process. We went through 3 phases. We had luncheons and meetings, and it became like a little cult, you know what I mean? It's like, you guys have an election, we're going to crowdfund and learn all about organ music. And it was, so now I listen to a lot of organ music, and I travel around Europe going to great organ concerts, so I'm really into it.
Hey, I'm gonna tell y'all one thing about that organ. When you fall off in the black church, man, somebody gonna be in there on that organ, man, in the black church, man. They get to cutting up. I got a couple of partners I went to school with, and they's a fool on that organ. I'm talking about a straight fool on that organ, for real.
But,
oh, that's great.
Yeah, it is great. It's really, if you've ever been in a beautiful cathedral with organ music, it's like an electromagnetic healing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really amazing.
I bet. I've never experienced it, but I can imagine.
Oh, you have to take your whole family, go to Chartres, go to Mont Saint Michel when there's a great organ concert.
Isn't he like a Orthodox priest?
Man, walk into any church in the South, man. Any church in the South on a good Sunday, about 11 a.m. worship, man, you gonna go in there, you gonna hear a good somebody in there on that organ going off. Walk into one of them good churches in the South, man, on a Sunday about 11 o'clock. You got to catch the 11 a.m. worship. You know what I'm saying?
Priest or something?
He's Russian Orthodox.
He's Russian Orthodox.
And he's very devout. And he's very, he takes his theology seriously. So I'm always getting yelled at because I'm Christian, but I'm not Russian Orthodox.
Yeah. That's interesting. So he ultimately has been writing about these breakaway civilizations forever.
Years, yeah.
For years.
Yeah,
and
he's been on it from the beginning.
Yeah, and his theory that these are somehow, they come from the Nazis or something like this?
So take it back to, about Admiral Byrd after World War II.
Remind me.
Okay, so Admiral Byrd took a force of a naval force down to Antarctica.
Oh, okay.
And
is this Operation High Jump?
Yes.
Okay.
And came back very quickly, having lost, I think, ships and men or something. But whatever happened down there, we got whooped. And so the question has been since then, because the Nazis were clearly down there, during World War II. But
Dorsey, I think they talked about that in what's that book, The Mystery of Jekyll Island. I read that book, man, about how the Federal Reserve came about, and all of that, man. Yeah, that's a good read. But I know what you're talking about, Dorsey. But she's talking about Antarctica. They say they got all those treaties in Antarctica, but somebody said that they done found the treaties finna come to an end or something. They down there looking for oil. But now Stein saying, Dorsey saying aliens. I don't know.
And the Nazis never. If you look at the surrender, according to Joseph, the Nazis never surrendered. The German government surrendered, but the Nazis never surrendered. And we know Dulles was in Switzerland the whole time, laundering money back and forth.
Right.
And the rat lines got a lot of money out, and we brought 4,000 plus scientists, Nazi scientists, into the national security state.
Well, some people, or a guy who's been on this show before, he's a philosopher and a historian on this stuff, Jason Giorgiani, was explaining to me how essentially Dulles and the national security state funded the Nazis.
Yeah. So there's a wonderful book, I don't know if you've read it, Charles Higham, Trading with the Enemies. Mm-hmm. And he literally describes people stopping, ball-bearing orders going to the U.S. military so that they could go to Germany to keep the tanks going. So you literally had a meta structure, whether it's Dulles in Switzerland moving money back and forth, or literally the American industrial establishment helping keep the German tanks going. So, you know, you literally had a whole corporate infrastructure that was on both sides of the fight.
So I'm curious. So this breakaway civilization that we've been talking about of bankers, central bankers, and private military contractors.
See, y'all know they say Canada new prime minister used to be a central banker. Y'all gotta look, man. Y'all gotta, you know what I mean? I tell y'all, I don't know everything, but some things I do know. Now, with listening to her say that, I'm trying to think of like, who's the last leader that I know or whatever that got ties to the central bank? It's Canada's new prime minister. What's his name? Is it Starmer? I don't know what his name is. Let me look it up. Not Trudeau, the dude that replaced Trudeau. What's his name? How the hell I say his name? Dang, they only got his name here. Oh, Mark Carney. I done said Starmer. I done put somebody in somebody else's business. Let's see. Central banker. Mark Carney. A former central banker, became Canada's prime minister in March 2025. So yeah, he was a former central banker. And this lady says she was raised to be a central banker. She was raised to be a central banker, so she kind of knows. But yeah, that's crazy that she's talking about that, and Canada just elected a former central banker.
What is there some sort of cohesive ideology that they entertain?
Not that I know of. You know, and I think that is one of the reasons I think they're going to fail, because they don't, you know, I have seen in different sections or spots a culture or a theology or a philosophy, but I've never seen in the overarching. And now what you've seen is you've seen groups, you know, you see some groups who are just, you know, it's just mafia, it's just crime. So, you know, I would say culturally, in the unipolar model failed, was the culture failed.
For the United States.
For the United States, but if you look at what the groups who seem to have power positions globally, I think their culture will fail.
I don't think any of the world superpowers have any sort of cohesive ideology, do they? I don't think China does.
I think China does, but it's weakened tremendously, and
maybe Russia is more so.
Russia probably has the best shot of anybody. And it's funny, the Russians tried to recruit me in 2005.
Oh yeah?
And they had a whole speech about how they were building a great culture. And if you look at everything they said, or the fellow who was trying to recruit me said, and what they're doing, you know, they seem to be, it seems, what he said seems to match what they're doing.
Why did they try to recruit you?
Well, I have a theory. I know
What's
what happens,
theory?
but I don't, you
right.
know, you never know
for sure.
what.
Totally.
Okay, so I got I won't bore you, I was at a conference and outside of the country, and I got a very impressive guy who apparently was advising Putin. And he did a great job of trying to recruit me, and I just kept saying to him, nobody likes a traitor. You know, you have to dance with the guy you came to the party with. And he said, they'll never trust you, they'll never let you back. I said, I know, but I don't care. You know, I'm an American. So you can't change that.
And this is when you were working for who?
This is 2005, before I'd settled the litigation. And I went home. I was working in Montana on a food project, so I'm in a ranch.
Y'all believe her, yes or no? Do you think she got approached by a Russian asset to become a turncoat? Do y'all think Russia tried to get her to become a turncoat, man? Press 1 if you think they did. Press 2 if you think she's capping. She's lying.
Got home and I said, something's wrong. Something's really wrong. And they had tried to force me to settle, and I wouldn't. And the negotiation was just, you know, I was like, you are going to pay me the money you owe me, and I'm not going to settle until you give me the money. And it got really mean. And they had pushed and pushed. It got mean and mean. And I think they really wanted to settle because they knew they were going to bring the mortgage bubble down. And I got home and I said, something's wrong. There's something I'm missing here. So I got online and researched, and I discovered that Russia and their wealth funds were the number 2 holder in the world of U.S. mortgage securities.
What?
Yeah. And I said, that was Fannie and Freddie were trying to get me out of town. That wasn't the Russians. That was Freddie and Fannie. And it was right after that they finally settled. They paid me the money.
Wow.
Right. And
that's crazy.
Well, things, here's the thing. It's not the world, when you look at things through money, things look very different than they do if you're right.
Yes.
So
yeah,
I think that
it's a much more objective way of measuring all of the crazy stuff that you read about or hear about.
Right. So I think it was just a way of getting me out of town, and because then they wouldn't have to pay me the money if I was a trader. No, really.
Right. No,
right.
It makes total sense.
Right.
It makes total sense. Some of the craziest stories I've ever heard about, people being followed or spied on or intimidated, have been people that have suggested that this is not the U.S. government that's doing this. These are contractors that are doing. These are private organizations.
Well, a lot of the people who were following me, they're funded by the U.S. government, but they have contractors. But then the contractors have what I call stringers. People they just pay daily. It's gig work.
Enforcers.
No, it's just gig work.
Oh, okay.
You get an assignment on your smartphone that tells you to follow this person around for the day or something. But they're gig workers, and a lot of them are stringers. They've been they're like drug addicts, or and they're just making gig money.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I had the whole portfolio all the way from a real employee to a government contractor to stringers. So yeah. I've dealt with them all.
Again, going back to this idea of this breakaway civilization, some of the stuff that Farrell has talked about, what is had ideas about genealogy and eugenics, and a lot of them are eugenicists and believe in this idea of this master race.
So I can only tell you what I personally experienced.
Mm-hmm.
But they do believe in bloodlines, and the notion of bloodlines is very serious and real. And they do believe, just like they believe in breeding racehorses or champion cattle, they do believe that some people are genetically superior to other people.
Right.
And that's part of the bloodlines. And I don't know a lot about it. I only know what I've experienced, but I don't know a lot about it. What I do know is, one of the big unanswered questions I have is how much have they been doing genetic engineering of children all along? So, and I suspect they probably have been. So you saw the movie Hannah, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, see the movie Hannah. It's all in
really?
the movies,
Okay.
I remember in America, fact is fiction, fiction
Well,
is
you've seen.
fact.
I know you talked about the novel, the science fiction novel, Three Body Problem. I heard you talk about that.
Right.
Which is basically the idea of this alien civilization coming here from another star system that has like 3 suns and they can't survive, and somebody contacted them somehow and let them know that we have a planet here and they're on their way here and they're trying to stifle all scientific innovation on planet Earth. And so by the time they get here in 450 years, we can't develop technologically to be able to fight them off.
Right. So one of the things I believe, have you ever read Rings of Saturn?
No.
Nora Berglund. Oh, that's a book you should read. I can send it to you.
Okay.
It's when I first tried to buy it was $2,000, so somebody sent it to
Holy
me in PDF.
crap.
No, I think if you can't get it, I'll send you the PDF.
Yeah.
But Berglund was, I think he was at I can't remember I think it was NASA. He was an engineer. And when Voyager passed Saturn in 1980, they call it the thing in the ring. They saw what they thought was like a 70-mile-long plasma spaceship docked in the rings, and the theory was that it was getting energy from the ring. And that's when the mortgage fraud and the financial fraud exploded. And one of my hypotheses is did they suddenly say we need as much money as possible to come up to that level of civilization? Because the theory, sort of the history of a more technologically advanced civilization, meaning a less, so it never works out well for the less.
Yeah.
So it's the same in Three-Body Problem. Crash course, how do we get up here? And one theory on the breakaways is, okay, that's a crash course to get us up to deal with the people who control the thing in the ring. I don't know if it's true, but if you read Popular Mechanics, they say the camera on Voyager magically shut down and, it's complete. Anyway,
Yeah.
but if you read Rings of Saturn, it's very...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you believe that that have some sort of alternative source of free energy that we've already figured out, or that somebody's already figured out, and they're keeping it secret from the
So
world.
we have a subsidiary in the Netherlands, Solar Europa. So I have a Dutch partner, and it's 50-50, myself and my Dutch partner. And that group, they do all our audio videos, extraordinary people. I met them because from 2010 to now, they've been doing conferences on breakthrough energy in the secret space program. And their breakthrough energy group is called Global BEM. It's up on the internet. You can see all their presentations. But
Global who?
BEM,
BEM.
B-E-M,
Okay.
Breakthrough Energy Movement is
got
what it stands for. And, they have a website and they publish all this stuff, and I participated in some of the conferences. But they've been gathering breakthrough energy inventors from all over the world regularly to talk about what's possible. I have two companies. One is Solari Report, and the other is Solari Screens. I do an investment screen. And the money manager, one of the money managers we work with on Solari Screens, we have a fund, and he's been an investor for many, many years in a breakthrough energy company. So, and occasionally I'll talk to him about it. Now, I'm one of those people, science goes in one ear. So
Yeah.
you don't want to ask me about breakthrough energy, but, it's all available up on the internet. And if you know the story of Tesla, on down to the current, there's lots of documentation and evidence that we have a lot of low-cost forms of energy available.
Well, that's the crazy sort of paradox with the idea of, if they're building these, which we know they're building these, giant underground cities and military bases and, underground superhighways for some sort of government to be able to run, and for these people to survive in some sort of nuclear war event or something like this, that, eventually the diesel power that they're using to run those is going to run out of gas or run out of fuel somehow, and they're not going to be able to power those underground bases.
I have no idea how they're powering it, but it seems to me, they're doing it, whether it's nuclear energy or breakthrough energy. And also, if you look at the people, what they've said, once you can get solar farms up in the suborbital platform and shoot the energy down here, there's also all sorts of ideas about how you can, if you can dramatically lower the cost of energy, that would make you want to have complete control. If you're running the planet, you would want to have complete control, because if everybody gets breakthrough energy on an out-of-control basis, you've got no way to control them, right?
Yeah. And another crazy thing that I learned recently was that the Manhattan Project is now the Department of Energy. Like, they changed their names a bunch of times, and now they're the Department of Energy, who is the one
Really?
that, during the Obama years, Obama passed the law that they were going to ban incandescent light bulbs, and now we're on these LED lights that are much more low energy, blue light spectrum,
Right.
which is the same stuff you get from all these smart devices that hijack your dopamine system and all this
Right.
crazy stuff.
It's all part of the Great Poisoning.
Right.
Right. So, one of my favorite Solari reports we ever did was with an attorney named Amy Benjamin. And do you know who Lawrence Wilkerson was? He was chief of staff to Colin Powell when Colin Powell was Secretary of State during the Iraq War thing. Anyway, and sometimes you'll see interviews with him as Colonel Wilkerson. He worked over for the Joint Chiefs at DOD when Powell was there, and then went over to state with him. Anyway, but Wilkerson called me and he said, I just did a peer review. He was a professor in Virginia. Said, I just did a peer review on secrecy, a journal article on secrecy, and he says it's the best thing I've ever seen. He said, you're going to love it, but I can't tell you who wrote it, and I can't give it to you until it's approved. And he said, as soon as it's approved, I'm going to send it to you, and you want to jump on this. So I did. It was written by Amy Benjamin. She used to work at the Department of Justice. And she did an interview on how all these things have been engineered and kept secret. Because when you realize that there's been this whole parallel universe going on and you didn't know it,
Right.
it's like, how could this go on and me not know it?
Right.
And so part of what people have to grapple with is, how could this be happening and me not know? And Amy does an absolutely fabulous job of explaining how this was all engineered. And you have literally, if I were to make a balance sheet of the United States, I will tell you more than half the economy is black and secret. And so this thing
More
is...
than half.
Yes, it's been... If you look at the organized crime money and the black money, it's been getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger our whole life. And it's now, and the way I got into all these topics, because when I tell you I had no interest in underground bases, I was just looking for the money. It's like, where is the 21 trillion?
Right.
Where's it going? And I just kept looking for the money. And what I discovered was this huge secret economy. And it was really funny. For many, many years, I had so many wars with the financial guys, because they would say the dollar's going to collapse. And I said, no, it's not. It's not going to collapse, because it's backed up by invisible weaponry, that makes sure it doesn't collapse. And it's not going to collapse because when you steal 21 trillion, you got lots of money. There's no reason to collapse. You're collapsing the people you're stealing it from, but you're replete. Okay, you're not going to collapse. The reason they're doing it is so they have no reason. They're resource rich. They're not going to collapse. So it was really sort of, I'll never forget, there's a famous show I did with Greg Hunter, who's sort of an ally of mine, who I very much, we have a very good friendship. And Greg was screaming at me. He said, I've had 30 of the most important financial people on this year, and they all say the dollar's going to collapse. You have to be wrong. I said, Greg, I'm right. The dollar's going to go up. It's going to go up strongly. And because I'm looking at all the stolen money.
Right.
And so he says, finally, I said, I'll bet you $1. He said, you have to be wrong. Every financial guy in the world, all these top guys are saying it's going to, I said, it's not going to collapse, it's going to go up. And he bet $1, and I made him pay me, because it was up 12% by the end of the year. I mean, it was a big move. And it was Farrell. It was thanks to Farrell that I was working with, that I could really, and I was working with some money managers too, but, you have to, if you're going to look at the economy, you have to look at the whole thing. And if the secret part is as big as the overt part, you have to...
Hey, double tap the screen, shut the live out, man. We 25 subs away from the next sub goal, man. If you watching on your phone, I know you on that phone. Double tap the screen. I know you on that phone. You see that little subscribe box right there. We go live every single day over here talking entertainment, politics, and current events. We finna go back live later on tonight, man. Double tap the screen. Fuck with your boy.
It on an integrated basis.
Yeah.
Which is hard, because it's hard to get reliable intelligence, as you know.
Yes.
But that's where the unanswered question comes in, and you have to just frame it.
Now, how does, when it goes, coming back to energy, the energy problem, how does this idea of depopulation solve that?
Well, here's the thing. If you look at the control grid, it's very... There are two things that are unbelievably environmentally damaging. Okay? You have a global population of 8 billion people. If they all want to come up to a level of per capita spending and mineral and other resource uses as the West, enormous environmental pressure. Where are you going to get all the minerals to build those roads, have that many cars, etc.?
Yes.
Okay? So you're talking about enormous environmental pressure. That's number one. Number two, if you can institute breakthrough energy, then they're all going to want to have 10 kids, right?
Yeah.
More environmental.
Lifespan is going to get longer.
So you solve that by control grid, but the thing that is the most energy wasteful of all is the control grid. Bitcoin, 3 years ago was using more energy than Switzerland. right?
Really?
Yeah. In 2023, it was using like 140% of all the energy used by the Netherlands. But you look at the data centers. I mean, just Bloomberg had an article 2 months ago. If you look at the data centers planned for Texas, they need 30 new nuclear plants.
30.
30 by 2030 is what the article said. 30 new nuclear plants. And China's building nuclear plants, right and left. So the energy, this much data and managing and keeping data, because they're talking about putting sensors throughout the forests. You've got Internet of Bodies, Internet of Forests,
Right.
Internet of, you're talking about digitizing everything and collecting and managing the data using AI. The energy is enormous.
I had this gentleman on here a couple weeks ago who his first day on the job working for the NSA was 9/11, and he was explaining the sentiment and the sort of the vibe at the office that day. And he said that everyone was very optimistic about the future of the CIA now that they were going to be able to just gather data from people in heaps.
Right.
And now they're building these giant facilities out in Nevada and and New Mexico that are going to be these just to store just all this information and all this data collected by the American people.
So I called the Patriot Act the Concentration and Control of Cash Flow Act of 2001, and it moved a lot of the black budget stuff on budget, but so DOD at that point was missing $4 trillion, but nobody cared. Suddenly they got a $48 billion increase the next year, and everybody was spending money. There was a Washington Post publication, I think it was in 2012, 10 or 12, called Top Secret America, and one of the journalists sat down and documented every national security installation or building that they could find that was built from the Patriot Act on, and it's just, you just wouldn't believe it. Unbelievable. I mean, the waste is beyond imagination.
I think there's a quote from Kissinger where he said at one point, humans will eventually become useless eaters.
He's an idiot. Kissinger was always, and I knew him in New York because I was part of the Republican committee there, Jonathan Bush, the brothers. Yeah. Jonathan was a good friend of mine, and I used to help Jonathan raise money, and so Kissinger would be one of my favorite days in my life. I would frequent, so I'm an investment banker on Wall Street, I'm making a boatload of money, I'm having a great life, and I had a restaurant that I loved, and they had one table that was a banquette that was like the best table in the house. And I would always go there, and that was my table. And we would always confirm our reservations 3 times just to make sure there's no problem. And I had dealt a lot with Kissinger at some of the Republican luncheons, and Kissinger is, he could be the most narcissistic person on the planet. He was unbelievable. Anyway, so I'm standing in line right behind Kissinger, and Kissinger tells the maitre d', who's looking at me, I'm behind him, that he wants that table. And she says, I'm sorry, sir, that's reserved. I can't give it to you. And he's furious. He's just like, I'm Henry Kissinger. And she said, I'm sorry, sir, I can't give you the table. Anyway, so I'm with my client. And so he's mad, and she goes off and finally sits him someplace, but he's steaming. And she says, Miss Fitz, your table's ready, and takes me. And my client's looking at me like, and Kissinger across the room is like, I hate you, and I'm laughing my head off because it was just like,
oh my God.
Okay, Henry.
That is hilarious.
The girls won this one. My client was a female, so Henry was really pissed.
Wow.
Right, it was pretty funny. That was a great day.
That's fucking hilarious.
He said he was there's a story about Kissinger, and I don't know if it's true, that he's finally taken into the inner sanctum and he's given the books of all the classified information that the military knows about what's really going on. And it totally changed him because he was like, okay, we can't tell anybody.
Really?
Yeah. So
I always imagine what that would be like to have that information in your head.
Well,
How would that affect you?
I don't know. I have tried, if you look at all the paranormal phenomena on this planet, I've tried to understand it and figure it out. And I can't figure it out. But I've been through most of the material. Farrell and I did a great 2-hour interview called Who is Mr. Global? And we went went through every different hypotheses.
What do you mean? Can you define Mr. Global?
It's the committee that runs the world. So
Okay.
there's a committee at the top that makes all the big decisions. And my nickname for it is Mr. Global. So the question is, who is Mr. Global, and why is Mr. Global doing what he's doing? Because when I look at a situation, I like to put myself in somebody else's shoes. Like, if I was Danny and I was doing this, what would it look like from my point of view? And so I want to put myself in
Yeah.
why is Mr. Global doing this?
Yeah.
What's Mr. Global's point of view? So anyway, Joseph and I went through and did who is Mr. Global and why is he doing what he's doing. So we went through all the theories, but some of my favorite comments on the internet is they'll say, well, she worked at the White House and she knows and she's not telling us. It's like, no, everybody at the White House is not sure.
Who's your best guess of who Mr. Global is?
I think you have intergenerational pools of capital, and right now they are over influenced by a cult. So I think you have interdimensional intelligence, which is operating demonic intelligence.
Interdimensional demonic intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this thing about good and evil is real, and I can't find it anymore. I found it once. There were in the 30s, a British physicist got up and said, we are being manipulated, but from other dimensions by intelligent beings from other dimensions. So I think, if you study Christianity and you read the Bible, you're dealing with both divine intelligence and demonic intelligence. And I think too much of the leadership has gotten deeply involved in the occult and demonic kinds of intelligence.
Wow.
So I just read a book, and I have no idea. So I've tried to find every theory to explain the paranormal stuff. So I'm not telling you this is true, but I just finished reading a book called Final Event by Nick Redfern. I don't know if you've ever read it. And he describes it's a exploration of a group of military intelligence in the United States called the Collins Elite.
Oh yeah, I've heard about the Collins Elite. Yeah.
And they came to believe that the ET phenomena was a demonic phenomena. It was not people from another planet. It was demonic intelligence.
It was biblical stuff.
Right. And one of the things he discovered was that, or the Collins Elite apparently discovered, is in many sort of ET abduction events, if you called on Jesus Christ, it would stop. Yeah. That's what he reported. And he strikes me, I don't know anything about him, but it struck me as someone who was trying to do a faithful job.
Y'all believe that? Chat, press 1 if y'all believe that part. Press 2 if you don't.
Of simply reporting what they found.
There's a lot of folks in the intelligence community that publicly state how they believe that the whole UFO phenomena is like this biblical thing. How it's angels and demons, and these things can be angelic entities, and like literal, like brown, like legitimate people in the intelligence community, whether they're still active or retired or whatever, that have been on podcasts that state they believe
So I
this.
am sure that all of that stuff is happening. So I think we are dealing with demonic and angelic forces in our world, and that's interdimensional intelligence. So the Bible calls it, demons and angels. Other people call it fifth dimension or whatever, but I think we're absolutely, and I will tell you what I think is the most important thing to understand about the universe. So write this down. This is my favorite. My favorite new book is A New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple.
Oh yeah.
99% of the material in the universe is plasma. Our universe is made up of plasma. And I used to hear that David Bohm said this, and other physicists as well, but Temple's really documented and nailed it, and I'm sure he's right. Plasma is alive and it's intelligent. And that means life is alive and intelligent.
Plasma or dark matter?
Plasma.
Plasma.
But, let me make it simple. The universe is alive and intelligent.
Sure.
And we share intelligence with all life. So in the Lord of the Rings, when the trees show up to help, that's real.
Right.
So life is alive, and the notion that you can take digital technology and control it centrally, once you understand that, is so ridiculous. Only a demonic intelligence would come up with that plan.
Huh.
Right?
Have you noticed this recent phenomena of, and there's been articles written about it, of essentially shots in Silicon Valley are mapping Christianity now onto everything that's going on in Silicon Valley. There's a new church in Silicon Valley that everyone's going to. Peter Thiel and the head of this company called Y Combinator are, Peter Thiel is a famous billionaire gay Christian, and the guy from Y Combinator is a big devout Christian, and they're holding these big conferences, and all these folks in Silicon Valley seem to be now converting to Christianity, going to church, and it's just really interesting to me, because Silicon Valley is, historically known for being like anti-religion, right? Like it's not been a typical religious part of the world in history. These people are, a lot of people developing tech and developing, these social media platforms, transhumanism. And,
I know nothing about it.
Yeah. There's been a lot of articles. There was an article in the New York Times that came out. I think the New Yorker. It's really interesting to me that somebody like Peter Thiel would be involved. Somebody who's very much tied up in the industrial complex, the intelligence community.
I would say that there is a non-alignment between the teachings of Jesus Christ and what Peter Thiel and his companies are doing.
Yeah.
So.
But it makes me wonder, though, why somebody like Peter Thiel would be so invested in promoting Christianity in Silicon Valley.
I don't know. I would need to understand a lot more.
Yeah, Gito, I see that. I see I'm at the watch.
Has something to do with trying to bolster Christianity in the United States, or sort of revive Christianity in some sort of a national security aspect.
Well, here's the problem. The problem is that there has been so much financial fraud and corruption that you have a real breakdown in productivity in the general population. So, there is a vested interest, if you don't want to depopulate everybody, and getting everybody to be productive, and they're not going to be productive unless they believe in morals and have morals. So, our problem, the reason the unipolar model failed, in my opinion, is we're not agreement capable. And the leadership is not agreement capable, but now the message is the population, you don't need to be agreement capable. Mm-hmm. And when a complex society depends on the rule of law, or at least the appearance of the rule of law, you take away the ability to be agreement capable, and the society fails.
Mm. Yeah, if you look at other countries, and if you look at Russia, and you see, they have sort of this cohesive Orthodox Catholic religion. If you look at Middle Eastern countries, they are so religious and extremely religious to the point where they're willing to strap a bomb to their chest and die for their religion. We are opposite of that. We are not. There's no sort of general religion or ideology or belief that ties us together in that aspect.
So one of the questions I would ask, trying to remember, I have to look up and learn how to pronounce his name. Mo, Gawdat. He's Egyptian. He was the chief business officer at Google. Do you know him? Mm-mm. He wrote the book Unstressable or Happy.
Oh shit, yeah, chat, man. I ain't gonna lie. We finna get up out of here. We're gonna come back on a nighttime episode. Gito, I am gonna watch that Peter Thiel. We do gotta watch that Peter Thiel. But I got a few things I gotta take care of, and I gotta cut my damn grass too. I need to cut my backyard. It's look like the sun's going down and ain't as hot. You know what I'm saying? There's some shade back there, so I'm gonna go and cut my grass. Do the right thing, chat. But y'all double tap the screen on your way out of here. Y'all get ready for the nighttime episode, man. Be sure to hit the notification bell so y'all get notified as soon as I go live, man. I'll see y'all in a little bit, chat.